Hey everybody, welcome to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and it's kind of quiet around here today, Veronica. At least so far,
Okay.
right? Well, we had another show this morning, but we're very glad to have you on the show now.
I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And we don't have any co-hosts here today, so it's just going to be you and me getting right into the nitty-gritty. So let's have some fun.
I'm all up for that.
Okay, great. So anyway, first of all, great to have you here, finally in the studio after meeting you. When was that? Back in the fall or something
October of last year,
like that?
yeah.
October, yeah. Well, that was an interesting day with Carmelita.
It was lots of information and her energy and
Oh yeah,
kicking the butt attitude really does get you going and moving.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great to meet you there and great to see you here. And so today we're going to talk about your business, Empowered Solutions, and it's women. You're a women's empowerment strategist, right?
Yes.
So why women?
Here's the thing. I actually, 30% of my clients are men, but I really do like working with women because my experience is when women are empowered, you're not just working with one person. You're working with a woman, you're working with her kids, you're working with her partner, her relationships, and in some cases you're working with the community. So it's just a domino effect. When women become empowered and they come into their own. I mean, it's energy, it's assertiveness, it's confidence, but it all filters down to the family, to in their relationships, in their communities. So, it's one. You might be working with one woman, but the impact and the reach is many.
So you're saying that's a good point that you get a lot of leverage dealing with a woman. You get to have a positive influence on a whole bunch of people.
I think you do. I really think you do. I think that's been proven through time.
Okay, so now how long have you been doing this for?
Well, I'm actually come to this 20, 30 years, 20 years actually, in terms of working and helping people. I mean, I come to this as a therapist and as a trauma counselor, and I've moved more into the realm. I don't want to use the word coaching, even though I am a certified life coach. But the reason why I don't move into say I'm a life coach is because people get so much more. I bring so much more to the table than just coaching. So that's where the women's empowerment strategist comes from.
So okay, so you mentioned a therapist. That's your sort of background.
That's my training.
And as what did you say?
Trauma counselor.
Counselor. So what I mean are those? Hey everybody, welcome to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and it's kind of quiet around here today, Veronica. At least so far,
Okay.
right? Well, we had another show this morning, but we're very glad to have you on the show now.
I'm very glad.
Hey everybody, welcome to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and it's kind of quiet around here today, Veronica. At least so far,
Okay.
right? Well, we had another show this morning, but we're very glad to have you on the show now.
and I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We don't have any co-hosts here today, so it's just going to be you and me getting right into the nitty-gritty. So let's have some fun.
I'm all up for that.
Okay, great. So anyway, first of all, great to have you here, finally in the studio after meeting you. When was that? Back in the fall or something?
October of last year, yeah.
October, yeah. Well, that was an interesting day with Carmelita.
It was. Lots of information and her energy and her kicking the butt attitude really does get you going and
Absolutely,
moving.
yeah. So it was great to meet you there and great to see you here. And so today we're going to talk about your business, Empowered Solutions. And it's women. You're a women's empowerment strategist, right?
Yes.
So why women?
You know, here's the thing. I actually, 30% of my clients are men, but I really do like working with women because my experience is when women are empowered, you're not just working with one person. You're working with a woman, you're working with her kids, you're working with her partner, her relationships, and in some cases you're working with the community. So it's just a domino effect. When women become empowered and they come into their own. I mean, it's energy. It's assertiveness. It's confidence. But it all filters down through the family, to in their relationships, in their communities. So, it's one. You might be working with one woman, but the impact and the reach is many.
So you're saying that's a good point, that you get a lot of leverage dealing with a woman. You get to have a positive influence on a whole bunch of people.
I think you do. I really think you do. I think it's been proven through time.
Okay, so now how long have you been doing this for?
Well, I'm actually come to this 20 years actually, in terms of working and helping people. I mean, I come to this as a therapist and as a trauma counselor, and I've moved more into the realm. I don't want to use the word coaching, even though I am a certified life coach. But the reason why I don't move into say I'm a life coach is because people get so much more. I bring so much more to the table than just coaching. So that's where the women's empowerment strategist comes from.
So so you mentioned a therapist. That's your sort of background.
That's my training.
And as what did you say?
Trauma counselor.
Counselor. So what? I mean, are those two sides of the same coin? Are they two different things? Or
trauma is a little bit more specific. You're dealing with. I still do a little bit of trauma counseling. I might take up 4 or 5 cases per year. Usually, trauma counselors are emergency situations or traumatic situations. Trauma counseling, domestic violence, a murder, a death. So, all of those kinds of really deep issues. Family counseling, therapy. It's stress. It's anxiety. It's depression. They are more long-term kind of, I wouldn't say more easier issues because...
less intense, at least.
Absolutely, yeah,
right?
yeah. That's a good word, less intense.
Yeah. That's a pretty... now, why did you want to get into that field? I mean, trauma counseling alone sounds like it could be kind of stressful even to you, right?
Well, that's why I only do 4 or 5 cases a year now. I mean, I was working when I was really in the flow of it. I mean, I was working with an organization where I was doing a lot of back-to-back cases. I'll tell you a quick story. I was working with I used to work with a lot of employee assistance program companies, and one of the companies that I was working for was very much a conveyor belt kind of an organization. They wanted you to seek back-to-back kinds of clients. And I remember one day I had this suicidal client, and with suicidal clients, it's difficult to contain them. And I went over the 50, 60-minute session. And then I didn't know I had a new client that was waiting for me who was anxious. So she was anxious to get in to see me, and she had to wait. And which just upped her anxiety. And So when I finally got her into the room, I sat down and thought, oops, you know what? I need to go to the bathroom or else I'm just not going to be able to focus and give this lady the attention that she deserves. And so I did. And when I came back, she was so anxious. She went. She left.
She left.
So
you must have felt horrible.
Well, no. I just knew that she was anxious, but she made a complaint.
Oh.
And so here I am having a conversation with my supervisor about the fact that I had to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I'm a grown woman.
Yeah.
I'm closer to 60 than I am to 20.
Yeah.
And, you know, here I am talking about having to go to the bathroom. And I think that just said to me, Veronica, why are you doing this? And
where were you? Was that at a hospital or?
No, I was working with an employee assistance program. I worked with a number of employee assistance program companies.
Okay.
And I just thought, I don't want to work this way anymore. Clients, I don't think I'm giving the best to clients, and I don't think clients are getting the best from me. And I was beginning not to like the work.
Right.
And when you don't like what you're doing in that particular field, that's not a good place to be. So that was how I kind of transitioned and decided that I was going to change. And I really thought about what I was going to be doing. And I thought, yeah, I really like working with women and helping them to find their voice and stand in their own personal power.
So, do you think that there's, everybody could use help, right?
Oh, for sure.
Pretty much. I mean, everybody can use a coach, a mentor, an editor, right? When, we've had the whole women's, I know that's old now, but there was a time when women had to kind of fight for women's lib or whatever, right? And even now, still, people are complaining about the glass ceiling or how do women make it. We even had a group here last week from Germany talking about the unique situation that women face in the office, right, or in the corporate world. So, do you think women have how would you describe their situation now compared to before the women's movement started, and where you think it might ultimately go?
Well, I'm still shocked but not surprised, really, that, when I hear all these women's complaints, the Harvey Weinstein thing, all of that kind of, Bill Cosby stuff, all of those, still, young women are finding themselves in situations where they don't feel that they have a voice. They don't feel that they have the right to speak. And these stories that have happened years ago but are just coming out now. So what's happening that so many women do not feel that they have power, do not feel that they can speak up, or do not feel that they can walk away from those kinds of situations. So we've come far, but I think there's still a lot of work that we older women have to do with some of our younger women in terms of who they are, what they stand for, what their values are, and living and embracing that.
Are most of the people or women that you deal with? I know you got 30% guys too, right? Are they? Is it a different kind of set of problems that the guys are facing?
Well, I don't necessarily do a lot of empowerment with guys. Guys come in. They want to talk to somebody who's female as opposed to talking to somebody who's male. And B, sometimes they want the female perspective. They want another take on things. They want to see things differently. And I really respect a lot of guys when they do that. They want to take a look at something and really, am I doing the right thing here? Am I seeing this right? And so it's a safe place for them to get a female perspective.
Okay, so the women that come in then, what do they tend to be in business, self-employed, entrepreneurs, corporate, or
all of those, all of the above?
Anything else that I didn't?
Yep. I love working with women and entrepreneurs because I think there's so many stresses in becoming in the entrepreneurship world. 70% of being an entrepreneur is mindset, right? And if you can get rid of all your stressors, and that's where I come in. I help people, women, to prioritize their needs, manage their stress, set healthy boundaries in their interpersonal relationships. So if you can kind of get a handle on that stuff, then you're better able, I think, to show up to entrepreneurship and deal with all of the crazy things that happens in the entrepreneurial world. And you're more grounded, you're more clear, you're more focused, and able to deal with those issues that you, in a way that you don't get taken out of the game as quickly or as much.
They say that women actually make better entrepreneurs than men. That's what they say.
Who?
You know, the experts.
Okay.
Statisticians.
Okay.
People that work for the government, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Do you have any idea why that might be the case?
Well, I think the corporate world is very left-brain. It's very, and there's nothing wrong with left-brain, logical kind of.
Corporate world as opposed to the entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or business itself. And men tend to be more left-brain. Not all men, but men tend to be. And I think what women bring to entrepreneurship is they have more of a heart-centered approach. It's more about connection. It's more about relationship. It's not so much about the bottom line. Yes, they want to make money, but they also want to have relationships and be more heart-centered, I think.
Maybe because too, like being an entrepreneur is more. It's more. You got to do more stuff. It's not just the same old one thing. It's less specialized than a corporate job or role. Right?
Well, as an entrepreneur, you're selling yourself, right?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the brand, or your company's the brand. So people have to buy into you and what you stand for, and
Hey everybody, welcome to Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and it's kind of quiet around here today, Veronica. At least so far.
Okay.
Right? Well, we had another show this morning, but we're very glad to have you on the show now.
I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We don't have any co-hosts here today, so it's just going to be you and me getting right into the nitty-gritty. So let's have some fun.
I'm all up for that.
Okay, great. So anyway, first of all, great to have you here, finally in the studio after meeting you. When was that? Back in the fall or something?
October of last year, yeah.
October, yeah. Well, that was an interesting day with Carmelita.
It was. Lots of information, and her energy and her kicking the butt attitude really does get you going and
Absolutely,
moving.
Yeah. So it was great to meet you there and great to see you here. And so today we're going to talk about your business, Empowered Solutions. And you're a women's empowerment strategist, right?
Yes.
So why women?
Here's the thing. 30% of my clients are men, but I really do like working with women because my experience is when women are empowered, you're not just working with one person. You're working with a woman, you're working with her kids, you're working with her partner, her relationships, and in some cases you're working with the community. So it's it's just a domino effect. When women become empowered and they come into their own. I mean, it's energy, it's assertiveness, it's confidence, but it all filters down through the family, to in their relationships, in their communities. So, it's one. You might be working with one woman, but the impact and the reach is many.
So you're saying that's a good point, that you get a lot of leverage dealing with a woman. You get to have a positive influence on a whole bunch of people.
I think you do. I really think you do. I think it's been proven through time.
Okay, so now how long have you been doing this for?
Well, I'm actually come to this 20 years actually, in terms of working and helping people. I mean, I come to this as a therapist and as a trauma counselor, and I've moved more into the realm. I don't want to use the word coaching, even though I am a certified life coach. But the reason why I don't move into say I'm a life coach is because people get so much more. I bring so much more to the table than just coaching. So that's where the women's empowerment strategist comes from.
So okay, so you mentioned a therapist. That's your sort of background.
That's my training.
And as what did you say?
Trauma counselor.
Counselor. So what? I mean, are those two sides of the same coin? Are they two different things, or?
Trauma is a little bit more specific. You're dealing with. I still do a little bit of trauma counseling. I might take up 4 or 5 cases per year. Usually, trauma counselors are emergency situations or traumatic situations. Trauma counseling, domestic violence, a murder, a death. So, all of those kinds of really deep issues. Family counseling, therapy, it's stress, it's anxiety, it's depression. They are more long-term kind of, I wouldn't say more easier issues because...
less intense, at least.
Absolutely, yeah,
right?
yeah. That's a good word, less intense.
Yeah. That's a pretty... now, why did you want to get into that field? I mean, trauma counseling alone sounds like it could be kind of stressful even to you, right?
Well, that's why I only do 4 or 5 cases a year now. I mean, I was working when I was really in the flow of it. I mean, I was working with an organization where I was doing a lot of back-to-back cases. I'll tell you a quick story. I was working with I used to work with a lot of employee assistance program companies, and one of the companies that I was working for was very much a conveyor belt kind of an organization. They wanted you to seek back-to-back kinds of clients. And I remember one day I had this suicidal client, and with suicidal clients it's difficult to contain them. And I went over the 50, 60-minute session. And then I didn't know I had a new client that was waiting for me who was anxious. So she was anxious to get in to see me, and she had to wait. And which just upped her anxiety. And so when I finally got her into the room, I sat down and thought, oops, you know what? I need to go to the bathroom, or else I'm just not going to be able to focus and give this lady the attention that she deserves. And so I did. And when I came back, she was so anxious. She went. She left.
She left.
So
you must have felt horrible.
Well, no. I just knew that she was anxious, but she made a complaint.
Oh.
And so here I am having a conversation with my supervisor about the fact that I had to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I'm a grown woman.
Yeah.
I'm closer to 60 than I am to 20.
Yeah.
And, here I am talking about having to go to the bathroom. And I think that just said to me, Veronica, why are you doing this? And
where were you? Was that at a hospital or?
No, I was working with an employee assistance program. I worked with a number of employee assistance program companies.
Okay.
And I just thought, I don't want to work this way anymore. Clients, I don't think I'm giving the best to clients, and I don't think clients are getting the best from me. And I was beginning not to like the work.
Right.
And when you don't like what you're doing in that particular field, that's not a good place to be. So that was how I kind of transitioned and decided that I was going to change, and I really thought about what I was going to be doing, and I thought, yeah, I really like working with women and helping them to find their voice and stand in their own personal power.
So, do you think that there's? Okay. So, everybody could use help, right?
Oh, for sure.
Pretty much. Everybody can use a coach, a mentor, an editor, right? Even the best writers need editors. So everybody can use that kind of help. Do you think that, we're living in an age when, we've had the whole women's, I know that's old now, but there was a time when women had to kind of fight for women's lib or whatever, right? And even now, still, people are complaining about the glass ceiling, or how do women make it. We even had a group here last week from Germany talking about the unique situation that women face in the office, right, or in the corporate world. So, do you think women have how would you describe their situation now compared to before the women's movement started, and where you think it might ultimately go?
Well, I'm still shocked but not surprised, really, that when I hear all these women's complaints, the Harvey Weinstein thing, all of that kind of, Bill Cosby stuff, all of those, still, young women are finding themselves in situations where don't feel that they have a voice. They don't feel that they have the right to speak. And these stories that have happened years ago but are just coming out now. So what's happening that so many women do not feel that they have power, do not feel that they can speak up, or do not feel that they can walk away from those kinds of situations. So we've come far, but I think there's still a lot of work that we older women have to do with some of our younger women in terms of who they are, what they stand for, what their values are, and living and embracing that.
Are most of the people or women that you deal with, I know you got 30% guys too, right? Are they? Is it a different kind of set of problems that the guys are facing?
Well, I don't necessarily do a lot of empowerment with guys. Guys come in, they want to talk to somebody who's female as opposed to talking to somebody who's male, and B, sometimes they want the female perspective. They want another take on things. They want to see things differently. And I really respect a lot of guys when they do that. They want to take a look at something and really, am I doing the right thing here? Am I seeing this right? And so it's a safe place for them to get a female perspective.
Okay, so the women that come in then, what do they tend to be in business, self-employed, entrepreneurs, corporate, or
all of those, all of the above?
Anything else that I didn't?
Yeah, I love working with women and entrepreneurs, simply because I think there's so many stresses in becoming in the entrepreneurship world. I think 70% of being an entrepreneur is mindset, right? And if you can get rid of all your stressors, and that's where I come in. I help women to prioritize their needs, manage their stress, set healthy boundaries in their interpersonal relationships. So if you can kind of get a handle on that stuff, then you're better able, I think, to show up to entrepreneurship and deal with all of the crazy things that happens in the entrepreneurial world. And you're more grounded, you're more clear, you're more focused, and able to deal with those issues that in a way that you don't get taken out of the game as quickly or as much.
They say that women actually make better entrepreneurs than men. That's what they say.
Who?
The experts.
Okay.
Statisticians.
Okay.
people that work for the government, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Do you do you have any idea why that might be the case?
Well, I think the corporate world is very left brain. It's very, and there's nothing wrong with left brain, logical kind of.
Do you mean the corporate world as opposed to the entrepreneurship world?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or business itself. And men tend to be more left brain. Not all men, but men tend to be. And I think what women bring to entrepreneurship is they have more of a heart-centered approach. It's more about connection. It's more about relationship. It's not so much about the bottom line. Yes, they want to make money, but they also want to have relationships and be more heart-centered, I think.
Maybe because too, like being an entrepreneur is more. It's more. You got to do more stuff. It's not just the same old one thing. It's less specialized than a corporate job or role. Right?
Well, as an entrepreneur, you're selling yourself, right?
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the brand, or your company's the brand. So people have to buy into you and what you stand for. And, and people cut through. They see very, very quickly if you're being disingenuous. I mean, people pick up on that very, very easily and very quickly. I'm not saying that men are. That's not what I'm saying. But I think women are more heart-centered, more really wanting to develop more. Well, we're all about relationships, aren't we? Women are all about relationships. That's who we are.
Well, it's all about too. I think it's kind of like being an artist in a way, too. Being an entrepreneur, you kind of have to do a lot of different things. Maybe you have to kind of, imagine and then create the business.
Absolutely.
Maybe the new model, like it might be a new kind of business, even, right?
That vision is very important.
So, whereas in the corporate environment. And this is the other thing that I was speaking to these German ladies about, was that, like, the corporate environment, in a sense, is a predominantly male, or a creation of the male mind, right?
From the male model, from a patriarchal model.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an alien environment for women in general. I know I'm painting, these strokes are too broad, but like
Right.
you said, men tend to be left-brained, and I know that's a broad stroke as well. So I'm not saying it like that, but I'm saying that, the corporate environment is the product of the male mind. So therefore, the male would have a more natural affinity to that environment than a female.
Yep, I would agree with that. And a lot of women who are becoming entrepreneurs have come out of the corporate environment and have worked in that environment and have found that that's not the way that they want to work anymore.
Right. So now the thing is, like, the corporation is really just a way to organize a whole bunch of people working kind of together on something.
Okay.
It's organizing a whole bunch of people to work, right? So I'm just wondering if women, as opposed to being a single entrepreneur, but to develop a corporate structure, or maybe that's not the right word, but some sort of a structure or process that would effectively harness that collective human activity, but do it in a way that's more harmonious with the female mind.
And I think that's the kind of the way that women are going. They're finding their own systems and ways of working and support systems. Remember, the corporate environment, all of those networks, men have all of those support systems. The old boy network and all of that kind of stuff. Women, as women, we don't have that. And we have to develop those systems, and we have to develop those support systems. So I think we're learning and we're developing all of that as we develop as entrepreneurs.
So what happens when somebody comes to see you? Do you have an office, or
I work with people locally, as I do have an office, and I work with people internationally. I don't have an office.
Because you don't need to anymore,
No.
right? With Skype and
Absolutely.
internet and stuff
Absolutely. So usually people will, as a part of this program, they would embrace one of my programs that I offer, my MVP program, which is your most valuable person program, or they might embrace my Navigate Your GPS, which is another program, or my MAPS program, your Master Action Plan Systems program. So they come in buying a program.
that. I see. Okay.
And so let's just use MVP. MVP is a 5-session program, and we would look at your vision, what you want for yourself, your values. What are the values that you operate under? Do you even know what values you operate under? Are they yours or are they your family's values, and do they fit for you? And what's your mission? What's your purpose? What do you stand for? And so they go through that program, but it also, what makes me unique and what makes me different is they have to apply it to their own life situation. Because there's no point in having a mission statement and this is what I stand for if you're not living it.
So that's one program.
That would be my MVP program.
So who's that? Who's the target? Who's your best customer for that program?
Any woman who is in the process of revamping who they are, and that's any woman really, because we all have to redesign ourselves and who we are at some point.
At some point, maybe not today, but at some point.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and if I get a lot of women who are unhappy in their jobs, unhappy in their life. They're on taking Zoloft, or they numbed out because they're on some kind of depressive medication, and all of that's doing is numbing them. It's just kind of keeping them stuck where they are. And the work that I do is, okay, let's take a look at what is it that you really want? What is it that delights you? What is it that really is going to really shake you up and make you live a life of purpose? And and we talk about, and sometimes we're operating, we're just kind of go and functioning, and we're not even knowing why we're doing what it is that we're doing, except that it's because it's culture, it's because it's our family always did it that way, but does it make sense?
Yeah, or it used to work, but maybe it doesn't work anymore, right?
Absolutely.
For whatever reason, you kind of just fallen into a rut or something like that. I mean, that sounds like the kind of thing men could use, maybe, sometimes,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. So if a man knocks on my door and wants to embrace one of my programs, do you think I'm going to turn him away? Absolutely not.
Okay, so it'll work for men and women, the MVP program.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about the GPS?
Navigate Your GPS?
Yeah.
So we kind of look at your limitations. What's limiting you? How are you limiting yourself? And what do you think is limiting
show, which is great.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're on our show because so many things we can talk about. But first of all, I'm just going to ask you, what do you call yourself? I would say maybe a holistic practitioner, but what do you say?
Practitioner, spiritual counselor. It's more like third dimensional counseling.
Third dimensional?
Yeah, stuff like the normal doctors don't do, like ways to make you feel better that, the people don't get taught about, because, you can do things on your own that affect you that they don't teach or in school, or doctors aren't, it's not physical, maybe it's non-physical ways to help you better your life and your skills and ascension and enlightenment.
Do you help people get to 5D?
Yes, that's by enlightenment and being more aware of things that you're not aware of, the unseen and as well as the seen, so the physical and the non-physical.
Okay, all right, okay, good. Now, first of all, how did you get into this? How did you discover that you had an ability to kind of work in this area?
Well, it was came naturally, but in this lifetime, I didn't realize that, for example, Reiki was actually Reiki. So, everyone has the ability to do Reiki. So, like, for example, when a child gets hurt, the parents automatically put their hands on the wound, and that's automatically transferring Reiki, and everyone has that. But not everyone is aware that it's actually something. Mm-hmm. So when you go to Reiki class and you get the symbols, for example, Reiki Master, this enhances the Reiki ability to be a healer yourself. And the more you practice Reiki, the more stronger the unseen energy gets. So it's a life force energy that you're channeling through you for the highest benefit of others. It can affect in many different ways.
Now, we had somebody on the show earlier this week, and they were a Reiki practitioner as well. And they were saying that touching.
No, your hands are not actually touching the client. Your hands are hovering slightly above the client so that the energy is then transferred. So you're a conduit, like a radio transfers from your hands to their bodies. And you can also do it on animals and your food and anything. You can get really creative with Reiki.
Really?
Yes.
Your food?
Yes.
What can you do to your food?
Well, you can Reiki your food. For example, like you may have bad energy in your food if you're a meat eater, and if it's not free range, these animals are usually abused, but they don't advertise it. So you're eating their abused energy. So it's always a good idea to Reiki your food and everything around you, because you're picking up on all kinds of energies, and even when you're eating your food, it's dead energy, and it depends on what you eat. So
I'm practicing right now.
Yeah.
Right? Did you Reiki the popcorn that you had earlier?
No, I didn't Reiki the popcorn.
You don't need to.
No.
It's got good energy, the popcorn around here.
It came from this room, and this room feels pretty good, so I felt pretty
good.
It does,
eh?
Yep.
So you can feel the vibes in the room, and they're okay?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. It feels awesome.
Yeah?
I was kind of like tired coming in here, and then I sat here, I'm like, ooh, lots of energy.
Nice. Okay, fantastic. But it's almost like too. It's like they don't really do that anymore. But in the old days, well, maybe they do. People do. But in the old days, everybody used to say grace before.
It's old traditions. Mainly in every religion or tradition, they usually say a prayer or a blessing before you eat the food, give some kind of offering, some kind of thanks. It's normal, common for everyone to do it in their own different way. And sometimes they may be doing Reiki without even knowing it, being aware of what it is.
And of course, there's all that stuff that Dr. Emoto was talking about. You know about that stuff?
Yeah.
You know the love, you put love on the water?
Yeah, exactly. There's been many experiments done on water or rice, and you label it with love, you give it happy thoughts, and you can see the difference. But it's same with yourself and your body. So you think positive, and it shows, and we're all connected. So we're all connected in some way. So you think positive to somebody else, then you're getting back those positive thoughts yourself. If you think, oh, I hate that person, then you're basically talking about yourself, and those thoughts are coming back to you. So it's affecting you and your cells and your body and your aura and your being.
So it's all about energy. It's about intention.
Energy, right? And intention, yep. If your intentions are good for anything, then it comes back to you. But, sometimes certain things get in the way, like you're hurting yourself when you hold these emotions in. So one of these things I offer also is releasing trapped emotions. So sometimes you could have physical things developing, and maybe it's not your own emotion. Maybe it's the emotion of someone else, and it could be an inherited emotion. So it could be your mother, or it could even stem back from past life emotions.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I know when you come back to be with Jackie D in a few weeks,
Yeah.
you're going to talk about entities and stuff like that. But I wanted to ask you, because I keep hearing about things like generational, I don't know if it's curses or stuff like that. Like, for example, they say, like, if your grandparents were Freemasons or something like that, you may have some issues.
Yeah, there can be issues, like your emotions can be passed down from past lives, and you don't know why you're acting like that because it's not your emotion. So, yeah, there's ways to release it. There's the emotion code chart. And
now that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. You're going to do the entity stuff with Jackie D in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But today, let's talk a little bit. So we already know you're a Reiki practitioner.
Yeah, I offer Reiki. I offer releasing trapped emotions. I also offer EFT tapping, which is emotional freedom techniques, tarot card readings, pendulum dowsing, and personal and space clearings.
Which...
Yeah.
They bought an old house and then they were fixing it up, right? And there was some kind of, it was haunted, or there was some kind of entity in the house, and it was like, they couldn't get the renovations done, like just one thing after another. Like it was just dragging them down, and they were in pain, they were sweating.
Yeah, I've had most of the common cases are with houses, and people are trying to sell their houses and they don't realize because they're not aware of the unseen. So there could be negative energies trapped in the houses, and these energies need to be cleared or released and helped guided to the light. So this is where space clearing comes in. So you can do this physically, like with sage or with salt. Negative entities don't stay in salt. There's different kinds of salts. So the highest vibrational salt, Himalayan salt, is one of the high vibe salts. So
I like that stuff.
Yeah, me too.
You can get it at the dollar store now.
Yeah, you can get it everywhere. Yeah, it's becoming more common, which is great. Like I don't use table salt in my house anymore. It's all Himalayan salt. So when you're clearing the houses, like you can, when you're physically cleaning it, you can add salt to your water. You can like add salt to the carpets and vacuum it up, and then clean your walls with salt, Himalayan salt.
There's a lot of things you can do. I don't know, but when I'm just going to tell you this story. But when we painted, when we first moved back in here, I had my office. I had quartz crystals mixed in with the paint.
Yeah. Quartz crystals are awesome. I use crystals with everything. They're all over my house.
You're wearing some right now.
I'm wearing quartz.
Those are quartz?
I'm wearing quartz crystal, yeah.
What does that do? What does the quartz do for you?
It's a conduit of energy. So, it's the same quartz that you find in watches. So it needs to be a conduit, but it's what your intention of what you want the crystal to aid you with, really.
Right.
But every crystal does certain things.
Yeah. So did you go to high school in Barrie?
I went to Innisdale.
In Barrie?
In Innisfil.
Oh, Innisfil.
For a bit. And before that, I lived in Grenada, where I went to a private school in Grenada, which is called secondary school, which is equivalent to what they call high school here.
So, I'm just curious, like, when you were a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lawyer.
Really?
Yes. But as I started having life experiences and figuring out what it is where my purpose is, I realized that I don't want to be a lawyer. That's not my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So
how did you go from that? Like in school,
through life experiences.
And then what was there? Did something happen? Was there like one kind of moment of epiphany where you said, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, well, no, there was actually like a few things that happened in my life that made me discover spirituality and realize I became more awakened and realized that a lot of people just aren't aware because they're brainwashed, like in the school system or a uniform, or like, everyone's a sheep. They're taught like sheep. They're taught the same in school, but everyone learns differently, and I was one of those people that learned differently. So here I am to help everyone else, to tell them that it's okay. You don't have to be the same like everybody else. Everyone is different, and you don't have to be brainwashed and to feel that you have to, you know, be the same like everybody else. It's just you're different, and you need to just accept yourself for who you are.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about this stuff here. What is this again that you've got
Okay,
on
so
the
this
chart
is the
here?
emotion code chart. You can find it online, and so what it is, it's helping to identify your emotions, and this can be done in person as well as distantly. So it's through muscle testing. So your subconscious knows a lot more than you're aware of. Your subconscious has the answers to everything. Like if people were to be more aware, then they would eliminate the cost of medicine, doctors, pharmacy. Pharmacy is actually stemmed from a Greek word, which has to do with spells and Satan. So, you know, it spells like, so this is like, you can, not have to go spend money on these things when you don't feel well by doing this. So muscle testing, for example, you self-test your muscles. There's ways you can do that. For example, one of these is the ring finger. So you ask a question, yes or no, and and the yes is stronger than the no. So you say, is my name Shannon? Yes. And then,
Oh, I see.
yeah, and then the no would be stronger. So this you test on people, like, is the emotion that you're trapped in row color 1? Yes. Is the emotion trapped in row color 2? No. So then you go down the rows and you do the same thing. There's many ways you can muscle test yourself. That's just an example that I have while I'm here. So we find out which emotion it is, and then you ask yourself, you know, what age bracket did I acquire this trapped emotion? And it could be from this life, or it could go from before birth, which is a past life. So then with when you establish which emotion that you're holding, which trapped emotion, which is emotional baggage, you can release these with a magnet, any magnet. So if it's your own emotion, you go down from the top of your head, the meridian, to your lower back 3 times, and the magnet releases it. And if it's not your emotion, if it's deep stemmed from a past life, then you would do about 10 times. And you can also establish you have heart walls. So heart walls would be...
Heart walls?
Yeah. So,
what is that?
So a heart wall would be developed emotions over amount of time that is around your heart. So
it's like hardens your
like
heart?
Like a wall around your heart.
Like that song?
Yeah, like a lot of songs. So yeah, in a session you can release this, and you know there will be many effects. Like you would feel the difference yourself. Like anyone can try this and feel for themselves that
They can do it themselves?
Yep, absolutely. These are tools. These are tools for everyone that has the ability to do these things themselves and experience it themselves, and, you know, and feel the emotions and feel to know for yourself. Absolutely, you can do everything yourself.
But you help people do this?
Yeah, I help people do this. They can come to me, and they can also come and I teach them. Some people don't want to do it on themselves. They prefer having someone else assist them with these
because
techniques.
Right now I wouldn't even know where to begin with it.
Right,
but
exactly.
Let me ask you though, I mean, can you tell a story, of course no names or anything like that, but can you tell a story about somebody who came to you, what they were experiencing, and then what happened as you took them through the process?
Okay, so for example, one person, constant anger. This resulted in a surgery of a gallbladder, but they didn't realize it at the time. So we started off with Reiki. So, you know, after like the fourth treatment takes out all the toxins, and then the healing begins. And then combine this, then they became lighter, and then the releasement was intense crying. So, you know, like...
So you both saw that happen?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden they went through all this crying?
Yeah, releasement, and that...
From the
It
magnet?
was this combined with Reiki sessions, I believe, so... But yes, we went through the trapped emotions, and after releasing like something that was deep, when it's really deep, like, you know, you feel it, they feel lighter, and they cry, and the crying is not a bad thing because you're releasing. So it's common to get emotional and cry when you're releasing these emotions, these trapped emotions that affect and distort your aura and your energy.
So can you tell by looking at somebody if they got a distorted aura or something like that?
Well, you would have to, like, sometimes you can tell by looking at someone if they're maybe possessed, or if they have an entity over them by their eyes. You know, their eyes are kind of hollow. They're not really themselves. Maybe just going through the motions, robotic. But more feel. Like, everyone has the intuition, and you need to pay attention of how you feel around someone and how their energy makes you feel.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But, I mean, okay, I'm just going to say, I know you live in Barrie, so
Yeah.
you're not downtown as much as I'm downtown all the time. We're downtown
No.
right now. But, I mean, it seems that there's people on the streets, more people all the time, that I would maybe say, hey, they got some kind of
Yeah, definitely.
possession going on, or some sort of entities.
Yeah, because, like, even like downtown Toronto, like, I'm sure, like, it's big, and you get all kinds of different energies, and it depends on, like, you know, what you're into, what your lifestyle, what your choice is. You know, maybe you went to a bar, and that's the only time you went to a bar, but when you went to that bar, maybe you picked up on some stuck soul, or lost entirety.
Because they say there is that in bars, that there could be a lot of stuck souls and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it depends on the places that you go to, the lifestyle that you choose. And, you know, some people like that lifestyle, but they don't realize what's bothering them. They don't realize that they've picked up on an entity that is attached to them, that needs to feed on their energy for its own, like, food. And, you know, the negative entities, they feel on misery, depression, anger. You know, someone's depressed, they don't know why they're depressed. All these pills are not fixing them. That's because the pills aren't the answer. They need to do a clearing.
Yeah, of course the pills aren't the answer.
No.
And yet that's what our medical system tends to
we're all
only deal with.
dependent. We all think that the pill is going to fix this, even though, you know, they prescribe you Prozac for depression, and one of the side effects is you may have suicidal thoughts.
Oh.
And, you know, it's
It's a small price to pay for getting over depression.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, they're dependent on it, and, you know, people know about natural ways, then it's not going to, it's free. Like, it's free to learn. It's not gonna.
So, okay, like for example, people out there that might be ideal candidates to have what's it called again? The emotion codes to help them. Like, what might they be experiencing?
They could be experiencing constant nauseous. They're not unsure why. Irritability, sadness, you know, headaches. They could be physical. It could be constant headaches or a constant pain in your body, and the doctors don't know why. You don't know why. Mm-hmm. More than likely, it's not physical. It's spiritual reason why. Or
sometimes if people are particularly accident prone or something like that as well, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or things are constantly happening to them. They feel like, you know, something, they're stuck in, like, some kind of spider web, and, you know, these things, even though they try, like, certain things keep on happening on a regular basis.
So what happens when somebody comes to see you? Like, what kind of process do you take them through?
Well, we find out about their history, and everyone is different, so it depends on what they're looking for. So we can go straight to trapped emotions, which is fine, because, you know, more than likely everyone has a trapped emotion. So we can narrow down what trapped emotion it is, mainly how many trapped emotions, and then we go through the process. But it depends on their life and their lifestyle, and it depends on what they're experiencing and what they're looking for, because some people don't want to, you know, they don't want to be healed yet. Maybe they're scared, or either scared to believe it or learn about it, and they just aren't ready yet.
Yeah, because some people are kind of like, they're you know, they're just going to go see their doctor, right? Or the doctor will, and then they'll just do whatever their doctor says, right?
Exactly.
They don't take any responsibility.
Because it's beyond their comfort zone, you know. They were brainwashed, they're comfortable going that way. Things out of the norm, the unseen. Some people aren't ready for it. They're just scared.
And are most of your clients in Barrie? Or
most of my clients are in Barrie, except for distant. I've had quite a few distant house clearings from Toronto, where they send me pictures of the house, and we do remote clearings.
And you can do that?
Yeah.
And do they report good results?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, I've had good results with that.
That's cool.
Yes.
And what other services do you provide? I know you sort of mentioned some before.
Yeah, so I also do EFT tapping. emotional freedom technique tapping, where it's tapping your cortisones. Yeah, exactly.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It works, doesn't it?
It does work, and like I said, like people can try it on their own if they don't feel comfortable trying it, and you can see and feel the results by yourself. They also order the personal space clearings and tarot card readings and pendulum dowsing, as well as general spiritual counseling.
Okay, so now just for people out there that, I mean, it even sounds a little woo-woo. We gotta get our house clean, but no matter how woo-woo it sounds, it really is. Sometimes that's what's going on. It needs to be done. Like, what kind of symptoms would people be experiencing if, say, they've got a negative entity hanging around the apartment or the house?
Lethargy. You'd be the air. You'd be heavy. Maybe anxiety and tiredness, and just negative. And if you're miserable, if you're depressed.
When you come home, you're going to get more depressed or whatever.
Right.
You just got a heavy feeling.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing, and you mentioned it here, that this place feels okay too. But
Yeah.
when I go into a place,
Yeah.
I can tell, oh, this feels good here. Or not, right?
Exactly.
Sometimes you go into a place and you, ugh.
Yeah.
The energy is just like, ugh.
It's off.
Right? You just got to pay attention to your
Yeah.
whole body, mind, how it feels.
Exactly.
Right?
Your mind, body, spirit is all connected, and people are so rushed in their 9-to-5 jobs and come home and they think they're tired from work, but they're not paying attention to their body or their feelings. Maybe take a few minutes and do a body scan and pay attention to yourself and how you feel. And some people just don't even know to do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now you're coming back here. Do you know the date yet to be on Jackie D's show?
It's in May. Beginning of May, I'm pretty sure.
I think it's on our calendar already, but it's on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
You're going to be here live in the studio again with
Yes.
Jackie D, and you're going to. Now, what are you going to be talking about that night?
Part 2, spirits and entities and everything you should know.
See, it's really interesting stuff.
It is, because people need to be more aware, and it's only going to benefit you for being aware.
Okay. Now, how can people get in touch with you if they want to come in?
Yeah, email,
Yeah.
SHANNKOOMAR@yahoo.ca.
Like your full name at yahoo.ca.
Just SHANN.
Oh, okay. Shan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the waterviewspace.com.
And just tell us a little bit about the Waterview Space.
Yeah, so the Waterview Space is, we have the building right in front of Barrie's waterfront, so we're facing the water, and it's a bunch of holistic practitioners. So there's a few of us that offer Reiki, as well as combined with other spiritual holistic services. So you have a choice.
Do you see, that weird sculpture they got there?
Yeah.
Right down? Are you guys overlooking that one?
No, we're not overlooking that one.
But that's nice that you can just go out across the road and walk around the lakefront.
Yeah, it's good because the water is healing energy. So the water, it has a lot of healing energy. Just to be able to see the water, the water's energy.
Well, because it's funny because actually I didn't know you were coming on the show today.
Okay.
Right? But before, when we had those girls, they were from Innisfil, and they were doing a crypto meetup in Barrie, and they said they were looking for space, and I actually thought of maybe the Waterview space might be a good place for them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to actually, I don't know if it is or not, but I can at least put you guys in contact with one another.
Absolutely.
And, because, they're into the cryptocurrency thing, but they seem pretty cool. And, they're just down the road from you.
Yeah, absolutely. The more energy, the better.
So that's great. So, sounds great. So people can go to the waterviewspace.com or email you, shankumar at
Yahoo.ca.
Gmail? Yahoo.
Yep.
Yahoo.ca. Okay. Well, this is great.
Okay, I also have a Facebook page called Realistic Reiki.
Oh, yeah? Why realistic?
Just for the people who aren't really narrow-minded or not really into it. It seems a bit like it. I put things into perception for them so they understand a bit better. So
Realistic Reiki on Facebook, they can check that out.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Shannon, thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Yes, it was.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for the show today, everyone. So we'll see you next time. I guess we'll be back Monday or Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
So the weekend starts now.
Nice.
So thank you, Shannon. Okay. That's it. We'll see you next time. ThatChannel.
It's www.normanfelix.com, and it's Contact 2016. And the show is on from May 1st to May 31st. There's a reception on May 26th. Am I correct?
You're right, yes.
And the address is actually here at 600 Bay Street, Suite 510. There's something for everyone, and they're featuring different artists and photographers. And Vanessa is just new with the Norman Felix Gallery. She joined them back in March, correct?
Yes, I did, yes.
And you do a lot of photography, and you've already sold some of your work. And you started out as a ballerina yourself. So why don't we start from there?
All right. Well, I was a ballerina with the National Ballet of Canada for 22 years.
Wow.
And then after I retired from ballet, I did a number of different things, some television, I did a play. And one day I was actually a volunteer for Toronto Arts Foundation that did the Toronto Arts Awards. And one of the employees there did photography and film, and he was taking some pictures of something one day, and I said, oh, how does that work? How does the camera work? I didn't even know how to put film in a camera, literally. So he showed me, and I said, I think I've got a camera like that at home. My husband has one. And sure enough, my husband had a full camera kit.
Fantastic.
Full, with lenses and a Nikon film camera. Fantastic. So anyway, that's how I got started, and he said just, learn and take pictures and try things out, and then I learned a bit more, and then I traveled a lot and took pictures. But he also, this fellow, was also a filmmaker, and he made the trailers for the Moving Pictures Festival, and that was a few years ago. It's not going anymore. So I did his still photography for his films. So that's where actually...
Which films would they be? Do you remember?
In fact, the pictures in this show are of a break dancer, and his name is Jesse. Unbelievable guy. He break danced for 10 hours. He was 18.
Oh.
Good because of what he was doing. And the fellow who was in fact the director of photography was helping me with the lighting and the settings and so on. So that's kind of how I learned.
Wow.
And so then I just went from there. And two of the photographs in this show are of the Royal Ballet School in England.
If you have a camera to put it in, where do you buy it? There's so many few places even selling it anymore,
yes.
Which is really distressful because I used to be a pretty good shot myself, and I would take a lot of pictures when I was traveling and that sort of thing. And I stopped using it. My kids, of course, are all into their phones. Using their phones. And in this age of, I don't even know if you call it the age of the selfie, because I find it very self-centered. They're not taking pictures of really good things. It's always, here's our meal.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little bit afraid of all of that. There were these young girls taking selfies of themselves at the baseball game, and I'm going, oh, please, just take a picture, the old, Anyway, I don't have a cell phone that takes pictures. I do have a digital camera now, and I still haven't learned all the things to do with it, and I don't actually take film anymore.
So when you decided to, you were telling me that you volunteered one time, and that's how you got into with the Norman Felix group, correct?
Oh, it's interesting how we got hooked up. It was at the hairdresser.
Everything happens at the hairdresser.
Isn't that? I'm sitting getting my hair done, and Erin, it's her gallery, was getting her hair done, and I have no idea how we got into whatever we were getting into, that she had a gallery, then I was doing photography, and I said, well, maybe I could just show you my stuff, So anyway, I dropped it off. She says, oh, okay, sure, drop it off. So I didn't hear her for about a month or so, because she was busy and, all that. So then one day she says, oh, yeah, come on in, we like your stuff.
Good.
So let's do something. So that's how I got there.
You focus more on black and white, or in
both.
stills, or
I have my early stuff. A lot of it is black and white. I have a really nice collection of black and white, but I also have color too.
Personally, when I look at a black and white photo, to me, it's more intense.
I agree.
Sometimes
I like the black and white
because you have color all around you. You see it, but when you look at a black and white photo of someone, even there's a certain intensity and depth that there isn't.
And especially with film. And
yes.
I don't make. Oh, there they are.
Oh, okay. Now, is this the break dancer?
That's the break dancer.
And this was for a movie?
And that was for a movie. These are the ballet legs.
Cool.
And then
wow.
Oh, he was. And then there's 4 of those different positions from the flip.
You gotta wonder.
Look at that. He's just. I've also got one that isn't in this series that. With that sort of almost moonscape, he's sort of looks like he's walking above the moon.
Wow.
He was amazing.
So he took the moonwalk to a different level.
Yes, he did. Off of the moon. Yeah, off the moon.
Off the moon, wow.
Yeah. And I think some of those photographs have been published in international dance magazines, so they've used my photography.
That's excellent. So even though you haven't been there a long time, you're certainly getting a lot of exposure.
I was, and I just think that the dance was a good way to start because I knew exactly what was going on the other side, and I always say I know where the top of the movement is, but that's difficult with digital now. It's much. Film cameras are instant. What you take is what you get, whereas digital's not quite the same. And digital, when they, really complicated stuff, they do it through computer, and it that leaves me back at the past a little bit,
Yeah, same with me. I think if I had to get a digital camera, I would have trouble loading it into my computer because I wouldn't understand about the different cards.
Well, I know some of it. But I'm learning.
That's great.
Isn't that what life's about, to learn?
Constantly.
I mean, if you keep on trying, and so that's what I'm doing. And having fun doing it, too.
Well, that's the important thing.
I go off with the camera for an hour, and the time just goes.
It's your time out of mind.
It's all yours, yeah. And so I really enjoy it. I really do.
Now, tell me something. When does a dancer really stop dancing professionally?
Well, I left the National Ballet. I was just shy of my 40th birthday, but I continued for another 5 years. So, in fact, I was 45 when I retired my point shoes, my tutus, and they went out the door. Then I continued to dance, but just, I don't know, this, that, and the other. And I did a performance when I was 57, so that was my last performance. And then I said, that's it, I don't want to do another plie.
So I would say then that you are probably really fit and everything.
Mostly fit.
If you were still doing a performance at 57.
Yeah. It was, and I said, it was a choreographer from DNA, and he's not really a choreographer, he's kind of an artist that puts things together, and he wanted me to dance. So I said, okay, look, I won't wear anything too tight, no big jumps, no big splits, just, not too complicated like that. I was even concerned I could remember the steps.
Wow.
Because I hadn't done it for a while. So we agreed to work for a week together. I said, okay, at the end of the week, we will sit down and look at each other and say, can either of us continue this? Can I continue physically, mentally, and do you want me to continue physically and mentally? Anyway, we both said yes, and we did it.
Yeah, wow. And you were ready for it.
I was fine.
Because you...
Yep. I knew what I was up against.
You were disciplined enough still that you could put it all into focus. And
and we did like a week's performances, and then I said after that, because you have to stay in shape, you have to do your class, you have to do your plies and your stretches and everything daily, no matter what.
For how long? When you're starting out? Now, I know the train, but how many hours a day would you have to do that?
If you're a professional dancer in a ballet company,
which you were
doing 6 or 7 hours a day.
And that's just
every day.
Every day.
Except maybe Sunday. And sometimes Saturday.
So when you get into a rehearsal for something, then does the day become even more strenuous?
Yeah, it's just very long. You start at 10, you do an hour and a half of class, and then you can rehearse for 6 hours.
Non-stop?
Yeah, I mean, you have a break for lunch. You have an hour off for lunch. And sometimes you don't do 6 hours every single day, but it's possible. Depends on your schedule and what you're doing.
Now, these questions are just my own curiosity coming off the top of my head. But it's interesting because I always wonder, okay, so if you're a ballerina with a national company, okay, National Ballet, what do they tell you that you can eat?
Well, you have to stay thin however you can.
Really?
But you have to stay thin, but you have to stay strong.
So what would you eat to stay thin and strong?
Well, we kind of, good old salads and chicken and fish and things that are that give you protein. And I used to eat a lot of yogurt, and I still do actually. And it was sometimes it was a trial. Sometimes it was a trial. When I was younger, I had a little bit of baby fat, and so I was getting hounded about losing weight. And I ended
What do they consider a little bit of fat?
I was probably about maybe 100 and... Well, at one point I was 120 pounds, and that's heavy because when I lost weight I was 105. So that's 15 pounds.
That's about what I weigh, 105 pounds. And I think it's the closest to the best I can be because I can't put on weight.
Oh, well, you're lucky because I can't be 105 anymore. I'm not that. But so I had to lose weight, and I ended up going to, this is 1969, the year they put the man on the moon. And I was in Russia, and then I came back, and I was in the south of France, and I studied in the summer for a month. And I had no money. When I mean no money, I mean no money. I was living on...
So how did you survive?
Oh, about $3 a day, and I lived on tomatoes and yogurt. That's it. And
no croissant?
No, and I had one meal a week. And I lost 15 pounds. So
but where did you live?
I lived...
No money. How did you...
Well, there was... because it was in a studio there, there's a summer school in Cannes. It was in Cannes. And through the summer school, they have a hotel where the students live. So I think I was in a room with 3 or 4 other students, and it was $3 a day to stay. Wow. And you got breakfast, which was a bun and a coffee.
But at least you had good coffee.
It was good coffee, good cafe au lait. It was great. And I could swim every day in the ocean, and it was, it's great.
But that's a very exciting journey you've been on.
Oh, I've had quite an interesting life, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now with this show coming up, and there's a bank behind this?
Yes, this is the Scotia Bank. They sponsor, or I guess, they're the main sponsor for the Contact Festival. And the Contact Festival is on every May, and it's a photography festival. So there are going to be exhibits all over the city right now.
So they do. Who decides where do they go?
I guess people apply to have them.
No, but who decides where the exhibits are is what I'm trying to get at.
I would imagine all the different galleries sort of apply and say that they're going to do it. And then I guess it's the galleries themselves that have their artist show. That's how it works.
Now, the bank sponsorship, would you consider it, considering the size of the banks, a minimal amount or a decent amount?
Oh, I would imagine it's a fairly good amount. There is also a Scotiabank photography prize, not actually, they've just had it actually. And I think it's a $50,000 prize.
For the best?
For a photographer.
Uh-huh.
You have to apply for that. And, but, you know, I've seen they're all over the place. It just says, if you've applied and it says contact, then it goes in, there's promotional papers and promotional stuff, and then your name goes in and where you are and what you're doing and all of that. So it's neat.
So let me ask you this. When do you think that you'll have the kind of photograph that you're so proud of and blessed to take, that you will put yourself out there? Like, what does it take to do that? Do you have anything that you like right now that you think that could go that distance?
Yeah, I don't know. I know I have a couple of images that sell really well. And the reason they sell well is because they're very peaceful and calming, and people look at them and they just go, yeah. In fact, my dentist bought one of my photographs because everybody calms down when they look at this photograph. It's a boat.
Which one? It's a boat.
It's a boat.
Yeah. Well, the water is also very calming.
But it's you know, misty and anyway. So that's one very popular one, and there's another one that's trilliums in a forest. And that's very popular. And the one
that would be very serene as well.
Very serene. It's very pretty. And then the other one I really like. It looks like a drawing. It's a black and white.
Like a sketch.
That's what it looks like. It's not. It's a plant. It's called I think it's called a century plant or parsley something. And it was taken on the edge of the Tweed River in Scotland, and up against the sky. And the sky was gray, so you can see all the little. It's as if someone did it with a pencil, just black and white. And
that's just nature.
And that's just nature, yeah. And it's finding that, which is the fun part, you know.
Now, I would imagine that going to Scotland with all the mist and everything else, or constantly on there in the hills and the lavender and everything else that grows, would be for some excellent photographs.
I've got some lovely photographs that were taken on January the 1st, 2000.
Good for you.
On the North Sea.
On the North Sea.
Yeah.
Now, are any of those in the collection?
No, there's only, you've seen all that I've got in the collection at the moment. There'll be more. In fact, I don't know, I have to discuss this with the gallery, but of course, but I have a series of 10, not really photographs because they're a collage of Vietnam.
That would bring back a lot of memories.
Well, a lot of memories, and also with Vietnam, I think it's really important for people to see what Vietnam is. They have the memories, so that's what they think. And it's turned into an amazing country with amazing people.
I don't know if I should, well, I'm going to bring it up because it's on my mind.
It's fine.
But ever since all that napalm and Agent Orange was dropped on there, I recently heard that even today, there's birth defects still going on, and that is horrific.
It's horrific, and we drove through that whole area, which was Agent Orange, and just now the trees are coming back.
Just now. So it took over 50 years for for the shrubbery to grow and the trees. And to think of that devastation. And for what?
And for what? No, I know that it's very, very sad. And yet, when you see, you'd think the people would hold a grudge against white North Americans.
There's generations after them.
They don't.
They had to grow, and they had to have a lot of, and the human spirit is so incredibly resilient.
They're amazing people.
But if you have another generation of, peace-loving people, and to get back in touch with the spirit and the self, because they have to.
They have
Otherwise, how can you live in a country that was so demolished, devastated, everything? I couldn't even begin to think of D words that would describe.
It's interesting that Saigon, which is really Ho Chi Minh City now, is quite developed now with newer buildings and everything, but Hanoi is still very much the way it was. They haven't. It's still quite communist feeling, and they don't have. They have some new buildings, yes, but they don't have the big towers and things like that. Whereas they have a bit more of that in Saigon.
In Saigon.
Yeah. In fact, this is from Saigon.
The skirt.
The little skirt.
And it's probably handmade?
Well, no, I'm sure, no. Well, it depends what you call handmade. I mean, it came, I went in the store, and they had all the little clothes. You try them on, you go, okay, this is the one I want. And they said, oh, just a minute. And they go in the back, and they find the size and the skirt that you want in a package.
Oh.
In the back.
So they make them all there.
They make them all up, and then, they give it. So this came out of a package, not off, as we buy them off the shelf.
But you don't see, for example, who's really doing the laboring to make all these?
Yeah, we stopped off at a place. We didn't see inside where they were making them, but there was a big factory where they made a lot of stuff. But then also they've got jobs.
Yes.
And some of these factories are, the one I saw was modern.
Okay. Chris, are we going to take a break?
We gotta wrap it up.
Okay.
Wrap it up. Okay.
Okay.
Here we are talking about Vietnam.
Yes, that's a funny way to get off from from ballet, dance, photography, art in Vietnam.
I know. Well,
that's such a hodgepodge, but that's life, right?
And that's who I am now.
Yes.
That's what I am. I just.
So we're just going to take a little break because I noticed that there's
somebody else,
couple of people coming in. I don't know if they're part of the group. I'll find out. Right. But it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I will look forward to coming to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Vanessa.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Welcome to Spiritual Living. I'm Barbara Schreiner-Trudell, your host, and I'm delighted that you have decided to join us this morning. Today we're talking about how little it takes, and my guest is Joan McKillop. It's interesting how, as we journey along, life seems to be so challenging and difficult, and maybe we're afraid of connecting with others, but it's when we let down the walls and begin to open up that we realize it really does take very little to show compassion, kindness, and respect. So I'm delighted to have my remarkable guest with me today. Joan, welcome.
Thank you, Barbara.
So glad you could be here. Now, you said something to a mutual friend about how little it takes. Can you share that story with our viewers?
Well, yes, our Nancy, who was on your show at the beginning, she and I were sitting chatting one day and just got talking about experiences that I had had, and then she shared some also,
right,
with how little it takes to make a difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
And as we got talking, it just got bigger. It was like, yes, like, and then there's this, and there's this, and there's this, and it was amazing. And I don't think, from my experience of talking with other people, that they think they can make that big of a difference.
That's true. So many people are sitting back thinking that they've got to do big acts or they have to do something really huge in order to impact someone else. Now, you shared a story with me. Now, you do therapeutic touch.
I do.
And you've worked in hospice, so you've worked with a lot of people, and you're a doula.
That's correct.
So you've gone through the birth, the dying, and kind of everything in between.
Yeah.
Now, you shared a story with me about a therapeutic touch situation. Can you share that with our viewers?
Absolutely. And to me, it's a really important story because it probably was the first time where I sat back and went, that's how little it takes.
Mm.
And that was about 20 years ago. And so I was, when about 20 years ago when my daughter was little, I was a Sparks leader. Mm-hmm. Which, was a whole experience in itself.
Yes.
And, we had about 10 little ones in the class. And Sparks is the beginning of brownies and Girl Guides and things like that.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's only, I'm going to share and be a friend.
Yes.
That's their motto.
Yeah.
Anyways, when the girls were flying up from Sparks to Girl Guides, there's a ceremony and they get a pin and things like that. One of the little girls that was in the class with Claire, her mom was there. And I noticed her sitting rather quietly, and I went over to sit down and just chat and say, I've enjoyed having your daughter in my class and things like that.
Yeah.
And she seemed very disconnected. And so I said, how are things going? Everything okay? And she shared with me that she had breast cancer. And she's, our children were like 4 years old. So This is a very young, young mom. Young as in, around 40.
Yeah.
And so she shared that with me, and she had just been in and had a lumpectomy, and she had a drainage in, and she was clearly not doing okay.
Right.
Physically she wasn't doing okay. Emotionally, she was really having a hard time.
Right.
So I said to her, and I felt that her energy was just so low.
Yeah.
And understandably so.
Of course,
but it was just so low. And so I asked her, I said, would it be okay if I came over to your house tonight after this ceremony and did therapeutic touch? But she didn't know what that was, so I kind of explained, I'm not going to actually touch you. I'm just going to hopefully just bring your energy down and get you feeling in a safer and better place than you are right now. And she said, absolutely. So I did. I went over about probably 9 o'clock at night and never had been in their home, and she invited me in. She said, I'll lay on my bed. And so she laid there, and I gave her a treatment. And one thing we're taught in our training for therapeutic touch, and also in our training for hospice, is that you ask what the person needs.
Right.
And so when I was done my treatment, I took her hand and I put it between mine. And I looked at her and I said, I called her by name and I said, what do you need? And she looked at me and she said, I need you to hold me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, okay, I can do that.
Yes.
So I actually got in bed with her and held her.
Yes.
And I think for the first time, she just really broke down and just cried and cried and just let out all that pain of, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And after I got home that night, I just was so amazed because it was, you think what's she going to say? If you say, what do you need? Like, I need a cure for cancer. I need to live long because my children are like 5 and 7. I need, there were so many things that she could have said. And she said, I need you to hold me. And I went, and I can do that.
Well, it's interesting because I think one of the things we're taught is, what we can and can't do, what's okay, what's not okay. And I think we put up walls to the ways that we could, in fact, impact another person's life in a really simple way. Yeah. We put up walls to that because, what are they going to think, or what's somebody else going to say, or whatever. And we don't do the little things that make a world of difference.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, just because you know what? Any one of us can hold somebody.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's all she needed.
Just to be held.
Yeah.
I think that's, I've noticed that with other people as well, working with different people, that when they're in a place of distress, that a hug can sometimes be the thing that helps them to release whatever it is that's going on, whatever pain is there, or whatever situation they're feeling emotionally. It allows it to be released so they can start feeling better.
Yes.
It doesn't change the cancer diagnosis, but I'll bet she woke up, she probably slept well, and I'm sure she woke up the next day feeling emotionally better than she had in a long time.
I think so. Yeah, she really needed to be held and be allowed to cry in a safe place in someone's arms.
Yeah.
And and as you were saying, I mean, touch is so important too, and it doesn't mean that we need to go around hugging or touching people that that it's inappropriate or we don't want to, but it actually does remind me of when my daughter was really little, like still a baby. I would dress her up in as many frills as I could find, and I mean, I'm not a frilly person, and but she, I adored her, and she looked so cute, and I would take her to the old age home.
Okay.
And I tell all my young mums, if you're ever having a day, and all mums do, when you've just had it, and you just you're tired and all that going on, dress your baby up and go to a nursing home, because they are just crazy about it. So anyways, this one day in particular, I had her all dressed up in this really little frillies, and I took her there, and there was a woman in a wheelchair coming down the hall toward me, and she just is going, baby, like this, right? And I look at Claire in my arms, and I went, sorry, honey. And I handed this woman my baby.
Yeah.
And that's all it took. Like, she just, held that baby.
Yeah.
And just was so, oh, it's a baby, And it was just so adorable. And really, again, that's all it took, was
how little it takes.
Dressing up a baby in frills and going to a nursing home.
Yeah.
That's how little it takes. All of those women, and some of the men, but mostly the women.
Yes.
Because I think it just took them right back to when they had their babies, and babies are lovely.
They are. And I think as women that we tend to not really take good care of ourselves. Like, we're so busy doing for everyone else that we kind of miss out on the self-care that's needed. And to hold a baby close, there's a very warm and fuzzy feeling about that, and it's a way of sort of reconnecting to our youth, but also to feeling maybe stronger, or I don't know, just more alive maybe.
Well, and in a nursing home also, if most of the people in the nursing homes have lost their partners. Right. And I remember being at the nursing home to see my grandmother once, and I kissed her on the forehead when I went to leave, which I always do, and she didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
She had long lost that information somewhere.
Yeah.
But she looked at me and she said, "I want you to kiss me on the lips." And I went, okay.
How little it takes.
How little it takes, and then she just smiled, and off I went, and she was laying there smiling. That's all it took, was that.
So You have, I mean, done a lot of personal work with individuals, like one-on-one stuff through hospice, as a doula, even with your memorial services that you do.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the greatest experience for you in all of that work? Because it's all kind of similar. It's all around, times of change.
Yes.
So what is the gift that you bring, or what is it that you get as a result of that type of work?
What I bring, I believe, is a safe place.
Right. Yes.
And I think in today's world, or maybe any world, I only know today's because this is what I'm living in, is that people often don't feel safe.
That's true.
And I think if you can provide someone with a safe place, and it's not like you have to put it out there. You just have to be safe. You yourself have to be safe, and people know that. They pick that up. And then they can say, this is what I need, or this is what I want, or when you ask them, what do you need? Then they know that they're safe to say, this is what I need.
Exactly. And I think, too, that from what I know of you is that you show up authentically as you. You're not pretending to be something else. You're not hiding.
No.
I think so often that we want to be acceptable to other people, and so we kind of hide our true nature. And as a result of that, that creates that fear or that unsafe environment. Whereas being authentically you and showing up that way creates a sense of safety. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, it sounds very reasonable. Yes, because even when you don't show up authentically, then that's the energy you're giving off.
Right.
That you're not safe because you're saying this, but your behavior or your energy is saying something else.
Right.
And when those two don't jive, that's when others aren't comfortable with you. And then you can't move on to how little it does take.
Exactly, right, because you're sort of meeting your own needs rather than being available to the person in front of you.
That's right.
It's interesting with children and teenagers. Teenagers are great with this, that they kind of see through all the BS. Like, I've noticed, you'll watch little kids and who they kind of run to and want to spend time with and who they're kind of resistant to. And the person they're resistant to generally is the one who's afraid of really showing or revealing themselves, that in some way they're trying to be liked, they're trying too hard. We've all met people who are trying too hard. I think I've been that person a number of times.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think you can always trust your child and your dog.
Yes.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, dogs are good too, right?
Yeah,
they know who they love.
Yeah, and they know if you're safe or whether you shouldn't be in my house.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. One of the things that I teach is that we live in a universe that is energy, and that everything is that energy. And the way the energy moves is through thought, that how I think is actually going to create the things that I find around me. And I've noticed through my own personal journey of coming to terms with who I am, and also coming to terms with my past, which has been, more than a little sketchy, coming to a place of self-love where I can go, you know what, this is who I am. These are the things I've done, but it's all brought me here, so I'm okay with here. And so at 60, I can sit back and say, you know what, I'm fine. All is well. And I think that's one of the things that I've found since I've met you, is that you have a very self-accepting and authentic way of showing up, and that makes it safe for the people around you to reveal themselves.
Yes, and I had that experience for pretty much the first time. So, as you know, I took your course on being an officiant.
Yeah.
I have done 3 services.
Excellent.
Yes. The first 2 were very non-traditional.
Okay.
So, and
And these are memorial services.
These are memorial services,
yes.
yes. Mm-hmm. Celebrations of life memorials.
Yeah.
And so they were very non-traditional. So I didn't really feel like I didn't get the traditional experience.
Right.
So when I did on my third one, it was so fascinating, and I didn't have to. I met with the family.
Yes.
Only knew one of them. Mm-hmm. And it was just so fascinating watching the family dynamics. But you know, as I left, like they're all hugging me and going, oh, you're going, like, we're so happy you're doing this, and we just know you're going to handle it, and I'm going, thanks. It's like, you know, they felt that I'd been doing it for a long time, and really this was my first traditional one. So it was very lovely that that's what they felt from me. I think it's really important not to judge.
Yes.
You have to let that go. You cannot judge regardless of what's going on, because people will absolutely pick up on that.
Yeah, they feel it right away. And I know for myself, when I do memorial services, that for me it's really about, because oftentimes I don't know any of the people involved. Mm-hmm. So I want to discover the family dynamic. I want to discover, and I think that creates an energy of acceptance as well, when you're there to learn about them and to empathize with their journey and what's going on for them, and then also taking the time to get to know the person who's passed on. And sometimes they didn't like that person very much, and other times they're heartbroken because they're taken too soon. And so it's interesting to just be with people wherever they are. Mm-hmm. That for me has been the most important learning in my ministry, is just to accept people where they are.
Yeah.
Not my business how they're living their lives. Can I love them as they are, where they are? And I think that's what you do naturally as well.
Thank you. That's certainly what I think I do, and sometimes even try to do it.
Yeah.
I had another story that actually just happened to me a couple of weeks ago that I thought was so much fun. My daughter and I, and my husband actually, there were some of us at a bar I live in London, so we were at a bar in downtown London to see this certain band. Mm-hmm. And it was a matinee, so it was in the afternoon. Okay. And so during break, we kind of all went outside, and we're just standing on the street. And this bar is, it's on a corner that maybe, there aren't a lot of higher social people there, which was great. I loved it. Anyway, so we had a lot of fun. We were standing there, and this woman was coming up toward my daughter and I, and I noticed that she wasn't dressed very nicely. Mm-hmm. Her hair, it wasn't fixed. It looked like she hadn't showered probably in a few days. I did notice that she had a purse, somewhat ratty, but a purse over her shoulder, and she's walking along. And she looks at kind of all the group of us, and she zooms in on me.
Yes.
Of course, I'm watching her also, so
there's a connection.
There's a connection there, and of course, right away I'm thinking she's going to ask me for money.
Yes.
And so I knew I had a $5 bill in my purse, or kind of stuck in my pocket, and I think, as I mentioned to you too, there's been a lot of times in my life when $5 made a difference to me.
Yes.
Now it's not one of them.
Right.
So if I've got this $5 in bill in my purse, and so she did. She came right up to me and she said, I'm living in a shelter, in the women's shelter, and all I've got is my purse, and she kind of went into this whole story, mm-hmm. and then she asked me for some change, and I said, yes, I will give you some. So I reached in and took out the $5 bill and handed it to her. And she looked at it, and she looked at me, and then she just threw her arms around me and gave me this huge hug. And, of course, I hugged her back. Yeah. And there we stood in the middle of Richmond and Dundas or King or wherever we were, hugging. And then she let go, and then she said, "Thank you so much." And I said, "You're welcome." And off she went. And my daughter just kind of looked at me and she said, "Did you believe that story?" And I said, "I don't know whether I do or not. It could be true. It might not be true. And I don't care. I don't even care what she does with that $5. You know, it was totally worth it just to get that hug and to see the look on her face. She's hoping to get, I don't know what, maybe 50 cents. And
how little it takes.
How little it takes.
Yeah.
And then I've never, you know, I don't regularly, like I don't daily give homeless people money, but I do occasionally. And for her, I've never had one hug me. You know, like she was just so great. And I just went, yep, there we go again. That's how little it takes.
Yeah.
You know, what I find really important too is that you have to let go of outcome.
That's, I think, the most important part of that. And I know I learned that a long time ago. At one point in time in my life, I was married to an alcoholic. And so whenever I would be around anyone who drank, if I could smell alcohol, I would be really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Especially men. And I would try to avoid them at all costs. And I was going through a particularly challenging time in my life. You know, I had teenagers at home. My one son was struggling with all kinds of things, and so I took some time off work. So I really didn't have much in the way of income. I was working part-time. Mm-hmm. But I got on the bus one day, and I thought, just popped in my head, somebody's going to need some money. And so I took all the change I had and put it in my pocket. And it might have been, I don't know, $3 or $4. A lot of money to me at that time. But I thought, no, it's what I meant to do. I was off to a meditation class. I went around the corner, got off the bus, and I'm walking down the street, and there's a gentleman coming toward me, and he's obviously drunk. He's staggering, and he's asking people for money. And I thought, my first thought, which was surprising to me, was, oh, that's who the money's for. And that surprised me because normally I would have, in fear, crossed the street. Mm-hmm. He talked to a couple of people. They all just, scooted away quickly. They didn't want anything to do with him. And when he came up to me, he's looking down at the ground and he's saying, could you, spare a quarter so I can catch the bus?
So he's ashamed, too.
Very much so. And so I reached into my pocket, and I took his hand, and I took the coins, and I put them in, and I closed my hands over his, and waited till he looked me in the eye, and I said, "You have a wonderful day." What I gave that man was not all those coins. What I gave him was love, acceptance. And the look in his eye was worth its weight in gold, and it was an absolute healing for me. That fear I had of people who were drinking, all of a sudden that was eliminated. All of a sudden it didn't become the big fearful thing that I had been dealing with for so many years. And so I received a healing. I have no idea what that man did with that money. He could have gone and bought another bottle. And I don't care what he did with it.
Yes.
It's irrelevant. Yeah. I didn't give him money. I gave him love. I gave him acceptance. And I was speaking to some members of the church that I attended at that time where I was studying ministry. And I came out of church one day and there was somebody there and I gave them $20. And one of the other students who was studying ministries basically said to me, "How could you do that? You know he's going to be back like every Sunday now." And I looked at him and I said, "I wanted to give it. And I don't know what he's probably going to buy cigarettes or booze." And I went, "That's not my business."
That's right.
My business was I felt compelled to give this gift. I gave love, not money. It might look like a $20 bill, but it was love. Yes. So that's kind of what you're talking about too, is just giving without expectation.
That's right. And I think that's really, really important. And there's a lot of, like, as you found your own healing in that story,
Yes.
you know, by doing what you did, there are lots of times like teachable moments too. And I'm thinking of a time with my daughter. So again, she was young. She was, I think, maybe about 6, so she'd be in grade 1. And I was working with hospice as a visiting volunteer at the time. And I asked her, actually the woman that I was working with who was dying, it was around Christmas time, and she said, she invited me in for a Christmas cookie or something, like outside of our normal visit.
Right.
And she said, I'd love to meet your daughter if you want to bring her. And so I did. I asked Claire, I said, do you want to go with me? And she was aware. She was aware of the work I did, and
Yes.
she was aware that this woman, this was going to be her last Christmas.
Right.
And she said, yes, she would like to go and visit her and have a cookie, and she had a dog, so that was a big attraction too. And so we did that. You know, fast forward about 3 months, Claire decides that she wants to get her ears pierced. So I said, okay. And so I take her, and she's in the chair, and all of a sudden, like, I can see her, she's just sweating profusely. And she has this look of horror on her face, and she can't do it. And I looked at her, I said, you can stop anytime. You don't have to do this. This is your choice.
Yeah.
And so she did. She stopped. And she didn't go through with it. And the woman already had the earring in the gun. So I said, well, you know what? You might as well give me one up here. You know, go ahead. So she came over, and I got one in my upper ear, and, you know, off we went. That night after dinner, Claire was very quiet.
Yeah.
That night after dinner, she was in her room. She came out. She put a piece of paper that had a drawing on it on the fridge. Didn't say a word. There was a drawing of me with a new pierced ear that said, Mum Brave. And then there was a picture of her, very small, and it said, Claire Chicken.
Oh.
And I looked at it, and I took it, and I went, this will not go on our fridge, because it is not true.
Yeah.
And she said, well, yes, it is. She goes, I couldn't do it, and you did. And I looked at her, and I said, honey, getting your ears pierced is nothing. It doesn't matter one bit. It's nothing. I said, what you did, the courage you showed going to visit a woman at Christmas this year, because you knew it was her last Christmas, and you went to visit her, and you took her dog a little gift. I said, that's what courage is. That's what being brave is.
Yeah.
I said, pierced ears are
That's nothing.
meaningless. and we turned it around. But it was like, you know, if you can give them those experiences,
Yes.
then it also gives meaning to things like that self-esteem of hers, where all of a sudden I'm brave and she's a chicken. That's not true. But if she hadn't had the experience, I don't know what I would have drawn on. You know,
Exactly.
it might have been really meaningless. Going, oh no, you're not. You know, you're brave. Like, but no, that's what you did. And the thing with her also was that all the other girls in her class had, not all of them, but some of them, her friends had got pierced ears. Yeah. And I said, yeah, how many of them had the courage to go visit someone at Christmas because they were dying and it was their last one?
Yeah.
So it's that how little it takes, and it's moving it down the line.
Yes.
You know, like, what are the consequences? And you don't ever know what those consequences are. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But you never, you have to do it because at the time that's what you need, or want you to do.
Yes.
And then you let the universe look after it after that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I know I have 4 children, and I know, the mother I am today, of course, is far different than the mother I was with the first one when I was 16. A little difference in age here.
Yes.
But what's fascinating is watching her decisions and her conversations and the things that scare her. And we were talking the other day about anger, and she's been really angry lately, which is kind of out of character for her because she's quite a happy child, always has been. She's very outgoing, and she's been angry. And so I sat her down after school one day, and I said, you have to talk to me about why you're angry. She goes, I just am. And I said, no, anger is a secondary emotion. There's something else behind it. And so we sat there for a little while, and she was kind of closed off, and then she started to cry. And she's like, well, my best friend has a boyfriend, and she's always with him, and so we don't really get a chance to talk at school. And she said, and I said, you feel sad about that? And she goes, yeah, I do. And I said, what else? And I've had some illness over the last couple of years, and I've been incapable of doing a whole lot of things that normally I would be able to do. And I said, do you feel angry about that? And she goes, no. I said, do you feel sad that I'm not able, or haven't in the past, been able to do some of the things with you that we would normally do together? And she sort of looked at me. She wasn't prepared to say that, yes, that was one of the things bothering her.
Sure.
But the truth is that the way we live our lives impacts our children. The way we live our lives impacts the people who know us, the people around us. And it really does take very little to just slow down for a minute. Even we just heard a horn honking outside, and I've been working on being more patient when I drive. A long time ago, I decided that I'd rather be happy than right, because being right used to be the most important thing in the world. And what I realized about a week and a half ago is when it comes to driving, I'm right and everybody else is wrong. And I thought, oh my goodness, I thought I'd given that up. And driving was becoming a miserable experience for me, even though I really love it. And it takes so little to just go, wait a minute, they're going to do what they're going to do, and I have no control over that, so I'm just going to go with the flow. I got this from my husband because he's so smart. He said, just go with the flow. They're going to cut you off. They're going to come into your lane. They're going to stop unexpectedly. They're going to run red lights.
Welcome to Toronto.
Exactly. Like he says, why do you act so surprised? Just go with the flow. Yeah. And so I've taken his advice, and over the last few weeks, I'm spending more time, well, maybe the last 2 weeks, it hasn't been very long, but just sort of relaxing. And even when I was driving home last night, it was like, just sit. You're not going to get anywhere any faster. Just sit there, just be okay. Yeah. So what if there's construction? So what if there's somebody doing whatever? And it's interesting because I got home probably in the same amount of time as always, had a great conversation with my child, felt very, very peaceful through the whole thing. And I thought, how little it takes.
Yes.
To just change our mind and do something in a new way.
Yeah.
But it also models a behavior. And I'm sure your daughter has been the benefactor of some good behavior from mom and authentic stuff, real stuff.
Yes. She, actually, interestingly enough, she just told me last month she was working with a young woman who didn't seem all that friendly, and just was, standoffish and not very friendly, but she did say that her mom had died,
right?
Like within the last year.
Okay.
And Claire, because of growing up with me and working in hospice, she's aware of grief and all those kinds of things that we talk about. So, so she said, well, that could explain a lot.
Yep.
And she said, her behavior still isn't one that I like, but there may be a reason behind that, because she's grieving. And then one night, this young woman's father came in to pick her up, and she wasn't quite done work yet, and he was chatting to Claire and about losing his wife, of course.
Yes.
And that she had committed suicide.
Oh, that sort of changes the game, doesn't it?
It takes up a whole new level.
Yes.
And so, anyways, about a month later and this was all coming up because I think it was about a month later when it was the anniversary of her death, the first one. And so Claire went out and got flowers and just left them on her doorstep. Just put like, hope you have a wonderful day, or have the best day you can, or something like that.
Yeah.
And because she wasn't really supposed to know the whole story.
Right.
And because they're not really friends, like they're not in a relationship.
Right.
But she said, I had to do something.
Yeah.
So she just went, I'm just going to do something to brighten her day. And she goes, I'm just going to leave them and she'll get them.
Yeah.
So it all goes down the line.
It does. It's about kind of paying it forward. I think when we behave in a certain way with our children or with our friends, family, whatever, that a kindness like that does make a difference in the person's day. And, how little it takes. Again, that idea of how little it takes. Sometimes we think we have to do such major things like cure cancer or whatever, end poverty, but that's not it. I think listening to someone, being compassionate with someone, respecting their space, even as, now you do therapeutic touch, I do spiritual mind treatment, I do counseling with people, and it's interesting that when you think somebody needs to be fixed, or that somehow you're going to fix or heal somebody, that you actually set up a dynamic where they're going to feel bad about themselves because you're basically saying you're flawed and I can fix you.
That's right.
The truth is that we can't fix anyone. We can't change anyone's life. However, we can love them where they are. We can listen to their stories. We can be compassionate and kind and respectful to their situation, and just have empathy. And the difference that makes is huge. All of a sudden, the person feels like somebody else gives a damn.
Yes.
And that, I think, is worth its weight in gold.
And validation is huge.
Yes.
Also. And I ran into that situation in births. And one woman in particular, when she was in that transition stage where...
the fun stuff.
that head is this far from the outside, and it really hurts. And
it does.
Yes, and she was having a home birth, so she was unmedicated, and she was squatting and pushing, and she looks at me, and I'm sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of her, and I'm coaching her through it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she looked at me and she said, "This really effing hurts."
And that's the truth.
And I looked at her and I said, "I know." and she went, "Okay then," and gave birth. It was like she, it's that thing where she doesn't need to be told, well, it's going to be over soon, or it's it's not that bad. Like, just think of the baby.
Right.
It's right at this moment. This really effing hurts.
Yeah.
And you just have to validate it. I know. And
Exactly.
It was like, okay then.
Yeah.
And
I think that's one of the things that I think is so important. I remember my daughter a couple of years back. She was probably in grade 4 maybe. Something had happened and she was crying. And one of the support teachers, not her classroom teacher, but the one who was the support in the classroom, told her, "You can't do that because it will upset the other children." Yeah. And so I immediately went to the principal and sat down with her, and I said, "This is not okay. It is okay for my daughter to cry. It is okay for her to feel sad. And I don't ever want anyone telling her that's not okay because of what it will do for someone else." And I think her having an understanding that her feelings are valuable, just like you said with this woman. I mean, it hurts. Obviously, it hurts.
Yes.
And I think if we can sit with people and allow them to cry, because that's one of the things I've noticed in the workshops that I lead, that sometimes when someone's crying, somebody is going to go over and say, it's okay, it's okay. No, it's not. Don't touch them.
Or they give them a Kleenex right away, which is telling them what?
Yeah, stop it.
Stop it.
Stop it.
Yes.
And the reality is that, you know, in the workshops that I do anyway, I want people to feel what they're feeling. I want them to get in touch with what's going on. So I want them to be able to cry and to feel safe doing it. But the minute you wrap your arms around them or tell them it's okay, you stop that movement completely.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you have somebody who's feeling bad and apologizing because they cried. I mean, how many times have you heard a woman say, I'm so sorry because she's crying?
I know. We apologize for tears and
or anger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two things women aren't supposed to do, but of course we do it all the time.
And they always have a correlation.
They do. Well, it's interesting that, you know, when we take a look at raising our children or being with our spouses or, you know, with friends and family, to be able to honor each other's experience, which is the whole validation thing.
Yeah.
It's about listening when somebody needs to be heard rather than talking. You know, sometimes we can tell everybody all the right answers. That's not what they want. They want you to listen to what they're saying. They need to give voice to what's going on for them. And being silent and listening or saying, tell me more, is one of the greatest gifts that you can give, like how little it takes.
Exactly.
Listening isn't hard, and yet for some people it's damn near impossible.
Well, and I think a lot of women or a lot of people think that they're not enough.
Yes, that's true.
Right?
That's so true.
They go, well, you know, I don't have any therapeutic touch training, or I don't have the spiritual training, or you know, like I only did this and that didn't, you know, so I don't know what to do, or I don't know what to say, and and that is I'm not enough.
Yes.
And you totally are enough.
Yeah, everybody is.
Everybody is enough, because really you just have to meet people
where they are,
with your authentic self and where they are, and that will be enough. That's enough to make it meaningful.
Yes.
And then it's enough that it takes very little.
It always takes so little.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, when I was first doing church here in Toronto, one of the songs we would sing all the time is, how could anyone ever tell you you're anything less than beautiful? And every time we sang that song, whoever was in the audience, like the women, especially somebody who was coming new, would be sitting there bawling through the whole thing.
Aww.
And then later, if we were chatting, would apologize for it. And I'd go, there's nothing to apologize for. Somebody's telling you for the first time that you are beautiful, you are enough, you are terrific. And hearing that would sometimes start those waterworks, because they haven't heard it before. They've heard criticism, they've heard condemnation, but they haven't heard that they're okay. And I think that is one of the greatest challenges, is allowing people to come to an understanding that they are unique, that they're remarkable, that they have something that no one else has, and they do something in a way no one else does it, which makes them really special, just like everybody else.
Yes. And that's to me, that's the really important part.
Yeah.
Is that everyone is unique and special.
Exactly.
You know, like, because there's a lot of talk right now about, you know, us raising our children thinking that they're entitled, and there's this entitled generation, and they think they're special because they've been told that. But so the caveat always is, everyone is special.
Everyone is special. Everyone is special.
That person is just as you are.
Yeah. I've noticed, you know, my daughter's in grade 7 now, and I've noticed that, you know, the girls sometimes, and even the boys, are very critical of one another. And for me, I look at that and go, like, enough. Because as you criticize someone else, what you're really saying is in some way you're feeling inadequate. And so you project onto someone else those feelings. And so I always stop it. My daughter was telling me a story, I don't know, a year or so ago, and I asked her a simple question. I said, would that be gossip? And she went, no, because so-and-so said it happened. And I said, and what's the definition of gossip? And she just paused and she went, oh, yeah, I guess it is. I said, if you're talking about someone else and they're not present and listening to the conversation, really, that's gossip. And I said, I want you to just think about that. I didn't tell her she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I said, I want you to think about that. Because how would you feel if your friends were doing that about you? And I think that's one of the things that we can learn as we move along is what am I saying to your face and what am I saying behind your back, right?
Yes.
And the idea that if I have nothing good to say, I shouldn't say anything at all. And I think that's one of the things that we miss sometimes is how to have conversations with each other or how to share our feelings about our relationships and stuff without creating a sense of judgment. But and recognizing that whatever I'm feeling is valuable, and how can I just be with it and share it in a way that's honoring and respectful. And I think many of us are kind of afraid to talk to each other about the truth. We're afraid to show up authentically because maybe we won't be liked.
That's right. But
so what? Some people aren't going to like us.
Exactly.
What are you going to do, right?
Exactly. So maybe it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes, and I think it's from A Course in Miracles, is, what people think of me is none of my business.
I love that quote.
Yeah. And it's good or bad.
Yes.
Right? Because, somebody goes, oh, you're so fabulous. Your head starts to swell and you start to think you're better than somebody else. But the truth is, like you said, we're all unique and we're all special.
Yes.
So how have you assisted your daughter in realizing her unique and special nature, do you think? Like, what as a mom have you done to make that land?
I think just through living my own life and having interest in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
That it's just the influence.
Right.
It's just the influence of what they're aware of.
Right.
And I'm really grateful for my experiences. I'm really grateful that those are what she's seen.
Yes.
I'm not taking a lot of credit. I mean, things show up and I go, okay, let's do this.
Here's my best guess.
That's right. It's so funny because children are sponges, right?
Yes.
So they get everything. One of my partners in my doula business, when Claire was 9, she called to talk to me, and Claire said, "Oh, she's out of birth," and so my partner said, "Oh, well, what do you have any idea what time she'll be home?" And Claire said, "Well, she's only 4 centimeters and she's been there for like 6 hours." So she said, "I don't think I'll be seeing her today." and my partner in my business was just laughing. She said, "What 9-year-old knows that?" So it's all about what experience you can give them in a safe environment and in a good environment.
Yes.
We can give them lots of experiences that don't serve them well.
Right.
But we can certainly give them, experiences. Like I was going out to see a hospice client one day, and I wasn't supposed to be going that day, and so my husband and she and I were supposed to be spending a day together going to look for fossils, and she was really excited. And then I found out that my hospice client was in the hospital, and I really felt that I needed to go that day and see him. And so I did. But she was disappointed, and I just, I went, "I'm sorry, honey. I mean, you're important to me, but I really feel this is necessary."
Right.
So I'm I need to do it. And so as I'm getting in the car, she comes running out to the car, and I'm thinking, oh, she's going to go, no, don't leave again, right? And she looked at me and she said, remember to be kind.
How great is that?
And I went, thank you, I will. And she went, okay.
Okay, bye.
Because that was always a big thing with us. Remember to be kind.
Yeah.
And as it happened, the man died that night.
Yes.
And if I hadn't followed that intuition, he would have, he would have spent his last afternoon alone.
Yes. Yeah, that's an important thing, is the intuition that we have and following it, and showing our children the importance of that, because that would have been a great lesson for your daughter as well. Yes. To have you come home and say this was his last day.
Yeah.
And I got to be there with him. My daughter has experienced a lot of death, and I've had people who think that's a terrible thing, that children shouldn't experience it. But the truth is that it's an aspect of living, and it's completely natural, and every one of us is going there. So it's really, for me, it was important to honor her wishes, because she was the one who wanted to see her grandfather when he died. She was the one who insisted on going to a visitation when her first babysitter died. And then I had to explain to her about suicide, because that woman had committed suicide. And it's like, so how do I explain that? Because at the time she was pretty young, I think maybe about 8. And so we talked about that as best I could. She went to the funerals, so she heard those services. And I think it's important that children experience life for true and for real, right? That we shouldn't paint fairy tale pictures. And I mean, I'm not opposed to Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and these ideas, but what I'm opposed to is keeping children hidden from things like death and dying. I know for me, I had a cousin who died when I was about 7 years old, and that was a very traumatic experience for me, and no adult ever talked to me about it. They talked about it around me to other adults, but no one asked me what my experience was of having my cousin die. And there was no way for me to come to terms with that. And I think that's part of why it's important for me that my child have an understanding of death, and to honor the grief or the pain that you experience. That, of course, that's real. And just allowing her to see life in a real way. And I think because I'm a minister and she's been in the church all her life, I think she's had a good mix of experiences around a lot of people, which makes a difference as well. But I think letting kids see the real world and talking to them about real things in a way that is age appropriate and stuff like that, I think is essential to them growing up in with a sense of a higher self-esteem.
Oh, I do too. I absolutely think that every experience we can give them, and everything that they can watch and get. I mean, they take it all from their parents anyways.
Exactly.
Right? Like, it's familiar, it's family.
Exactly.
So they're going to get all of that anyways. So I think as parents, it's our responsibility to make sure that those experiences and those things that we're showing them on how we live and what we find acceptable and what's appropriate,
right,
are important things. And,
yes.
And they will follow that. You know, like now, you know, even like Claire's she's over 23 now, but you know, she's like now going, well, you know, that's not appropriate. Like at work if something happens, and you know, and she's very willing to go, that's not okay with me.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah,
and I think it's really important for them to have a voice.
I think it's essential. I know my daughter, you know, will come home and talk to me about how inappropriate the kids at school talk. You know, they use words that are very unacceptable in describing people's habits and ways of walking or talking or whatever, and they think it's funny and they think it's okay. And she's deeply offended by the language that they're using. And so she'll come to me and, you know, say, I'm not really comfortable riding this school bus because here's how the boys are talking. So as her advocate, you know, I go to the school and say, here's what's kind of going on, like, what can we do about it? But I think what I really appreciate about her is that she talks about what's going on. She stands up for people. She won't sit back and let you slam down somebody else without saying, you know, you can't really talk like that about that person, or you don't know that person, so why do you think it's okay to do that? So I'm really glad about that. That suggests to me that her level of self-esteem is pretty solid. Yes. She still can be influenced by friends, and so we have to have conversations about that on a regular basis. But for the most part, I'm pretty proud of the fact that she is behaving in a way that's quite remarkable and beyond her years. You know, kind of like your daughter, you know, yes, talking about 4 centimeters at 9.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, with that I found anyways, I mean, I've only had one child, so yeah, I have experience, but it's a limited experience.
Right.
And
you missed all the fighting of siblings.
Yeah, isn't that too bad? Claire wanted a sibling for years, and whenever she wanted one, I would take her to some friend's house that had more than one, and then she'd come home and go, yeah, I'm really okay now to be an only child. I go, I know, honey. I just kept giving her the benefits of it. Anyways, I totally lost my train of thought there.
Well, we're actually at the end of our time,
no.
if you can believe it. The time is up, and this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been lovely chatting with you and talking about how little it takes, because it really does.
It really, really does. On that note, as we say goodbye, I want to mention again that I do have a number of books, and they are available through my website, BarbaraSchreinerTrudell.com. Books on gratitude, forgiveness, love, and joy. They're actually journals that you do. So I invite you, if you're looking at making a change in your life, that you can do that. And it really does take very little, but it does take being conscious. I'm also offering a course on personal development, and if you're interested in that, again, you can email me at barbara@BarbaraSchreinerTrudell.com, and I will get back to you. That course is being offered online, so it makes it very easy regardless of where you are. And on another note, you mentioned the officiant training that I do. If you're interested in facilitating memorial services and you would like to learn how to do that or how to improve how you currently do it, again, I have a class starting later this month. Again, through my website, BarbaraSchreinerTrudell.com, you can get all kinds of information. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you will subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to being back with you next week when my guest is Susan Housen. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.
Everybody, it's Liquid Lunch. It's me, Hugh, and this is Calling All Vegans, right? That's what we're calling it, right?
Okay.
Sue? And Nikki
We're
Hayes
settling on that one finally, are we?
Well, Nikki Hayes, she put her foot down, and
I like vegan kind, or the V word, but
the V word.
And Mo's with me on that.
I like the V word, I have to say.
The V word?
Yeah, the V word.
Wait, how about the vegan monologues?
I like that too.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. The V word, it sounds like the L word, right? So
yeah.
So that's
yeah.
And it's kind of a taboo still.
That's right.
Yeah,
there aren't that many
and
words.
That's why the L word is.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So I like the V word, but hey.
I vehemently like the V word.
I'll go with anything you guys decide.
Okay, great. So we're talking about where I think during this interview we'll draw the link between climate, health, and veganism, and we have Mo Markham to put all that together for us, right, Mo?
Some of that, yes.
And that's her real name. That's not a stage name. That is her
Mo
real
Markham?
name. Isn't that a cool name?
Well,
Did they name
it's
that
not
town
my
that?
legal name,
Well, no,
but
the
don't
Mo
tell
is.
anybody.
It's not?
I know-
it's the name I go by.
I know the
that
story behind it, but
Do you live in Markham?
I don't, no. I've only been there once.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Kitchener.
Oh, you came all the way in from Kitchener
I
today?
came all the way from Kitchener. It's
Wow.
amazing. Yeah.
How's life in Kitchener these days?
Same.
It's a busy town, isn't it?
It is,
Well,
yeah.
not compared to Toronto.
Not like Toronto. No, nothing at all. No.
as we hear all the traffic outside the
Yeah.
window.
Well, this is
it's
Toronto,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's not comparable. I used to live in Waterloo. So
Oh,
I'm
did you?
somewhat familiar with
Were you a student?
KW. Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Ooh, KW.
Right. I think it's confusing, right, to have Kitchener and Waterloo. It's really part of the same city.
It's not my fault, really.
I know, and plus Kitchener, it's not a great name.
No, it's true. But you know what? Okay, well, this is another interview, but it used to be called Berlin.
I know, right? But then World War I happened, and they couldn't
and
have
that was the end of that. Yeah.
Right, but Kitchener, it's not a great name. And Waterloo, I mean, you get mixed up with Napoleon's Folly.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So I thought they should, and plus they're really one city.
It's a mess.
They should change the name to Kitchaloo.
KW.
What do you think?
I like it.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. Now that we've got that straightened
Good.
away. We're
Put it to
talking.
vote.
What?
Put it to vote. Get a
Okay.
petition going.
No,
Okay,
you.
No, you.
Okay, so Mo, we're talking about a couple different organizations that you're involved with.
Yeah.
KW, what is it?
Kitchener Waterloo Climate Safe.
Climate.
Save.
Yeah, climate change. Right.
And Climate Vegan, and Mother Earth Save. We're all part of the Save movement. Not shockingly.
And she's got a pig save shirt on.
And she's got Toronto Pig Save on. That's right.
I have a pink one too, but I didn't wear it. It's a little snug.
I want to see that one.
It's a little snug right now.
Perfect.
Let's just wait until.
That's okay.
Hi, Colleen.
So, and it's all part of the Climate Vegan and Mother Earth Save?
So we're all part of the Save movement.
Okay.
And so we're all part of that organization, but we focus. All three of those groups focus on what animal agriculture and what that does to the climate, and so that's our focus. So the United Nations says, I'm sure Ray has spouted some of this before on the show, but the United Nations says that animal agriculture creates more greenhouse gases than all of the world's transportation, right? And we don't want to talk about, how meat and animal products affect the planet, but, they're huge, right? And we could really turn things around. The planet, we stopped eating meat and animal products, we could turn things around more quickly than almost anything else if we could do that, because it's something that we do every day, right? And it's huge. It has a huge effect on climate and on our environment.
So
right?
through our food choices, we can have a big impact on the environment.
We could have a huge impact. So not only the greenhouse gases, but obviously if you're growing food to feed an animal that needs to eat for months or years before it becomes food, you have to grow food on land. You have to use land to do that. So you're cutting down trees, or not replacing trees because you're using that land to feed these animals for all this time before they become what some people consider food. I don't consider food, but you're using up land, you're using up water resources, fresh water. You're polluting the ocean, so the ocean dead zones. Animal agriculture is the leading cause of ocean dead zones and deforestation and freshwater use, right? and so there's so many reasons in terms of the planet to not use animal products, to not consume animal products, and so that's what we exist to talk to people, to try and get as many people on board and thinking about it as possible. So Mother Earth Save is the latest group, the latest climate group, I guess, within the Save movement, and we started this group to really focus and particularly to get women involved and to get mothers on board is part of our focus. I think that mothers have the most at stake in terms of the climate, in terms of what's happening, and getting mothers to understand, what they can do differently, and how far things have gone and how serious things are is pretty crucial. And they have the most at stake. Their future is at stake. Their children's future is at stake. And so getting mothers involved, I think, is really important. And so that's what we wanted to focus on. So we're doing some different things to get that, to get the message out. So we're starting with doing some brunches for mothers. So free food, and always a good draw. And we'll have speakers from different climate groups and childcare, and just talk to them about what's happening, and what they can do to make change, and also get them talking to each other. I think is important to do. So we have the first one. We've been having a really hard time finding a space that we can afford in Toronto. That's been a barrier so far.
To do what?
To bring mothers out.
Okay.
So we're working on that. But anyway, we do have one set up in Kitchener for the end of this month. That's our first one, and then we'll get Toronto. And once we have a space and a date for Toronto, then we do have a space in London, and we can set that up in London. So then we'll try to do other cities, but we're trying to make it as global as possible. So Kitchener-Waterloo Climate Save is in Kitchener, and Climate Vegan is more of a global organization, and we're trying to spread that around as much too, and we would like Mother Earth Save to be global too. So putting out the word to other SAVE groups in the world. I know you have the SAVE movement on, so you probably know we have, I don't know, 375 is the last number that I saw, but we have 375 groups or more across the world, because there's always more popping up. But so to try to put the word out to those groups, to get them involved, to get mothers involved as well.
So you start all this in Kitchener? The Mother Earth Save and the Climate Vegan?
No, Climate Vegan started here in Toronto.
Okay.
And then Kitchener-Waterloo Climate Save was kind of a spin-off of that. And the Mother Earth Save, I started with someone else who was not in Toronto, but she's having some health issues. So right now it's kind of operating out of Kitchener, but that doesn't mean anything. So.
It's a global movement.
It's a global movement, but we've just started it, so it's.
So what would you like to see happen? I mean, you got it's fun, Mother Earth Save. I wasn't thinking that's about mothers. I was just thinking you're trying to save Mother Earth.
Absolutely, it's both. It's both. Right? It's both. So what I would like to see happen is I would like the information to get out there for every mother on the planet, to be thinking about. All right, so we're going to start with you, Sue.
Colleen's a mother.
And Colleen too, to just get the word out, and to first off make them aware, but also help them to be involved, help them to figure out how they can be involved, and help them to understand how close we are to being beyond, the ability to turn around, right? I mean, scientists are saying, that some scientists believe that we're past that point.
Way past. We had Guy McPherson in here not too long ago. You know him?
Yeah. No,
10 years. That's all we got left.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah. Well, and I can't
quite
give up because some people say we may still have a couple of years to turn things around, right? So, but I don't sleep a lot because I'm always trying to think of some other way to make people aware, right, and make people care. That's really hard sometimes, to make people care enough to do something about it. So.
I think we got more than 10 years left.
Yeah.
Look at this beautiful day out here today.
Yeah.
I know people talk about the difference between climate and weather.
Yeah.
And we had the big windstorm on Friday, but and the coming global superstorm, no doubt, will hit Toronto.
I was wearing a lot of nature's jewelry in my hair on Friday. A lot of people were, with all that debris getting kicked up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with climate change is that it makes the storms more serious, right? It makes the storms stronger, right? And you know,
less predictable.
Less predictable.
Well, even this
absolutely.
weather on Friday was like that. Because, I mean, how often do we get hurricane force winds without a hurricane?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean, things are, you know, storms are growing stronger over the oceans, et cetera, because they're warmer, right? So, so things just, you know, get bigger and bigger, and you know, it's going to be more and more difficult for us to deal with them and to know, you know, what to do, right? So, yeah, getting the word out to as many people as possible is our.
So what happens when you get all these mothers together in one spot?
I haven't done it yet, so I don't know. Like I say, we're new, right?
Oh, but yeah, you must be working on an agenda for your first gathering, though.
Yeah, we do. So we have speakers. So for Kitchener, we have speakers from Citizens Climate Lobby coming, and Katarina Lindman has written a lot of has written a lot of pieces, you know, for newspaper articles, et cetera, and spoken here in Toronto and lots of other places. But she's an actuary. She worked in insurance for many years, and she's just retired. And so she talks to people about, you know, I mean, basically the insurance companies know, you know, that things are getting worse and worse in terms of storms, et cetera. And so I'm just distracted.
He's a vegan.
Okay, cool. Is that why he's there?
Put him up there.
That's
obviously.
why he came up, obviously. Cool.
I think he's just a random.
No, he's
soul.
a vegan.
He looks like the angry vegan.
Yeah.
Well, that's
a random ginger.
You can't see his eyes. His eyes are behind these glasses. They're so kind.
Yeah, warm and kind.
Awesome. Yeah, so Katarina's going to come and speak for Citizens Climate Lobby, and Laura Hamilton from Divest Waterloo will come and talk to us as well.
Divest Waterloo.
Divest, yeah. So they try to get organizations, like large organizations, like pension funds and, you know, teachers' pension funds and that kind of thing, to divest their funds from fossil fuels, et cetera.
Oh,
right?
I see.
So,
like those,
I did hear about that.
Yeah.
like those stock funds that won't deal with tobacco companies.
Exactly. So
right?
that kind of thing, trying to get people to stop investing in fossil fuels and start investing in greener energy, right?
Yeah.
Or at least take the money away from fossil fuels.
You know, I want to see free energy. Have you been following the whole free energy
I haven't.
thing? You haven't?
No. I'm horrible. What can I say?
I mean, they say that there are, I mean, I know we have solar and we have wind and all that kind of stuff, but there are guys working on free energy, like stuff that Tesla was working on back in the day, that, you know, you can have something that is able to pull energy out of the ether or out of the magnetic field of the earth or whatever, so that energy can be, well, the guy developed a water-powered car. You just put water in your gas tank, because
I'm
water...
surprised he hasn't disappeared.
He did.
Oh, he did?
That's exactly... Yeah, he disappeared right after he got $50 million to develop the project, and then he dropped dead. And the water-powered car remains...
Dead in the water.
Dead in the water.
But don't bump.
It's sad, because,
It is
I mean,
sad.
think, if you had free energy, you could desalinate the oceans at will for free, right? You could irrigate the Sahara.
Leave the oceans alone.
He's over my head.
No, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, no.
Let's turn the Sahara into a garden.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think it's an ecosystem on its own, though. I don't think it's, you know, I'm just like, I don't want to, like, you know, I don't want to burst your bubble or anything.
Yeah, but Sure it is, but it's kind of dry.
It is. It's true.
That's all I'm saying. Plus, it's expanding because of climate change. We can reverse that.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what's got me started, and I don't know what there was that just made me think of that, but probably the Sahara, and thinking about how dry things are that shouldn't be dry, right? I lived in Vancouver for 9 years, and BC is a rainforest, right? And what got me started on this a few years ago was having been away from Vancouver, from BC for 6 or 7 years, and going back out to British Columbia and seeing what it looked like.
What, it was different?
How different it was, and how I could see it with my naked eyes.
Where? What part of BC? I mean,
well, I was on the lower mainland, and I was on Vancouver Island, and there were fires. Obviously, there, like we hear about the fires, but when you see them, and we see how dry it is, it wasn't even brown; it was yellow. It was so dry, and it was so different from what I had seen before. There were fires on the island where we were staying. I was at a women's camp on the island. There were fires nearby, and we were told we might be evacuated. I used inhalers for a couple of years after coming back from being there for a week, right? And near the fires. I don't know what it's like for people who live there all the time. And some days we had to be inside because the smoke was so bad. And when I was leaving Vancouver, there were fires rolling in from Washington State. When I landed in Calgary to change planes on my way home, there, you couldn't see the mountains for the fire, for the smoke, right? That's what got me started on all this, right? Seeing with my own eyes that difference, right? So that's what made me think of it, the Sahara thing, like how dry British Columbia and California and Washington State and Oregon, and Alberta. I mean, the fire that when they had to evacuate Fort McMurray, that fire burned for 13 months, right? And a city that was like over 80,000 people had to be evacuated, right? So British Columbia, it's coming to Alberta. There are more and more fires in Saskatchewan. It's coming for us. We can't ignore it. It's here. We have to make change, and we have to do it as quickly as we can.
So what should we do? I mean, let's just talk for a couple minutes. And you brought some pamphlets. I don't want to ignore those. You brought some seeds too, which is great. It's planting season. I was gardening over the weekend.
Awesome.
Trying to create a butterfly habitat.
Nice.
And grow some vegetables. But I mean, what can people do?
So I think, obviously, and that's why I'm on this show, I think the first thing that people can do is pay attention to what they eat 3 times a day, and to think about the animal products and how they affect the planet. That's the first thing that people can do. We need to think about pipelines, and we need to think about what we're encouraging, right? Pipelines say we're going to be using fossil fuel for years to come, right? And if we build them, they'll want to use them, so we need to.
Money's worth that.
Absolutely, because they're not building it for like a year or two when we stop using fossil fuels. They're using them for long term, right?
Whatever they can suck out.
Yeah, so we need to do that. Go ahead.
What do you think about Trudeau? I mean, he's supporting this Trans Mountain pipeline.
Yeah, I don't understand how any of them can be as short-sighted as they are. Mm-hmm. Even beyond the fact that it's encouraging fossil fuels, and it's also, spills are inevitable. We know that, right? Yeah. And they cause such incredible damage, but also the particular, I'm not an expert on any of this, but the particular kind of oil that they're using, because it's unrefined, is much worse, so if there's a spill, it's that much more serious, right? So anyway, that's so we need to pay attention to all of those things, right? There's a group here in Toronto, and Lynn Adamson from that group has said if she's available when we do our Mother's Brunch, she will come out and speak too. There's a group here in Toronto called, I want to get it right, Climate Fast. I think it's called Climate Fast. And they do a whole bunch of different things. They're encouraging the government to find alternative fuels, but also to retrofit buildings and things, right? Because that's a huge, that's huge in terms of climate change too. So we need to do all of those things. The first thing and the most important thing we can do as individuals is to stop eating animal products. But the other part of that, for me, and that's why I want to get mothers involved. I want to get young people involved, and I do that, with films and things too. But what we need to do is to get as many people as possible involved in making change, right? I can stop eating meat and animal products, and that has, this much effect. But if I can convince, 20 other people, and they can convince 20 other people, that, we need to spread it, and we need to spread it as quickly as we can. And that's why we want to do this globally. We want to get other SAVE groups involved, but we want them to get other people involved, etc.
Well, it's good to focus on moms too, because you have these big corporations who have their vested interests.
Absolutely.
And mothers have their vested interests, which is their children and grandchildren.
But there are more of them. So, I just think we all need to make change in our own lives, but we need to spread it as fast as we can if we're going to turn things around. And as we know, some people think it's too late for that. Some of us still have some hope. And in that, for that hope, I think again, convincing as many people as possible. And that's part of why being part of the SAVE movement is awesome. So one of the other things that I'm working on is a films page for the SAVE movement, to try to get people across the world to show films in universities and colleges, because again, young people are so much more capable of change than people my age. They're more, their brains are just more elastic. Their brains are more capable of taking in new ideas and running with them, and really understanding that, yes, I really do need to make this change. I can do this, right? So spreading it as much as possible is awesome. So as part of the SAVE movement, in the first year that I was vegan, actually, I showed films about animal agriculture and climate to about 500 people in different universities through the province, right? And so we have that, we have that ability because we're a large organization, and we have an amazing funder who helps us to do that. But it's awesome to be part of a big group, and I can talk to people in Australia and England and Paris, about showing films, and they can help me with technical stuff. There's a guy in the UK who's always helping me with my technical stuff, because
you couldn't even get the window open.
I couldn't get the window open, exactly. So the online stuff I'm not that good with. So it's great to have that support and to be able to draw on people from in different places.
Well, the great thing about these movies too is that trying to get people to change their behavior, often all it takes is having a look at one of these movies.
Absolutely.
Some of my family, they watched a movie. They all went. I'm not sure they went vegan, but they went vegetarian because they were. I don't know. I forget which movie, but. Now weren't you showing films in Toronto or something like that?
So two different things actually. So we have the SAVE movement. We show films like to universities and college students and such, and high schools as much as possible through the SAVE movement. But we also have a group called We Love Animals that we're doing here in Toronto. And we did it at the Carlton for a bit, and we're looking for other space. And smile at you. And Sue said, well, maybe here. So maybe here. So We Love Animals basically to get people out again to the general public this time to see films and think about what we can do differently. So in the fall we showed We showed Babe, which was awesome.
Is that about a cute little pig?
That's right, Babe, about a cute little pig. It's old too. It's like 30 years old, and it's an awesome film. What's the guy's name?
James Cromwell.
James Cromwell. Thank you.
I love
somebody with a memory.
I just love James Cromwell.
Yeah. Anyway, Babe is this amazing pig, right? And you hear all about her, and she actually turned James Cromwell vegan. So
exactly.
When he was making the film, he became vegan. So anyway, we showed that film in the fall. We showed Sea of Life, which is a beautiful film. Made by a young woman in Burlington, Julia Barnes, and she has given us the freedom to show that film for free, and we're trying to get it out there as much as we can.
It's just getting people interested in
getting
off
people
the couch,
out the door, and
off their couch, and
right.
onto a chair and watching these movies at these public.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, we're going to show some more with We Love Animals, we hope soon. And to try to bring the general public out in Toronto to see some films that, again, might change their mind. Because I also know lots of people who changed their diet because they saw, Cowspiracy or What the Health or
those are good.
Vegetated or
Well, the vegans should bring a non-vegan to a movie night.
Yeah.
I'm bringing you, Hugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you just outed him. My God, you outed him.
I'll
He's
go.
a transitioner.
Well, we have vegan popcorn too. That's the nice thing, because like if you do it here, everyone gets to have some vegan popcorn.
I like that. But yeah, like it's so easy. It's just like, bang your head against a wall sometimes. Like there's this awesome theater in Kitchener, a repertory theater, and how hard is it in 2018 to have vegan butter to put on your popcorn, right? Like
coconut butter or coconut
there's
whatever.
50,000
I bring my
options.
own.
It's
I know
super
I have
healthy.
to end up bringing my own stuff from home.
I just bring my own popcorn. I'm not going to pay for their. I'm not going to pay for their popcorn if they. No.
Oh, this is a real issue.
This is a real issue. No, I'm not going to pay for their popcorn if it's not even vegan, right? If it's just like plain popcorn, I have to put my own stuff on it. I'm bringing my own.
Exactly. Although I heard the golden topping could be vegan.
I don't even want to go there because I don't. Yeah. Okay, I'm not touching that. You're not allowed to make me blush. First off, it's a rule.
Okay. Anything else you want to show us? You want
Yeah, I
to
was
hold
gonna.
up some of these pamphlets in the seats?
I'll give people seeds after. So we just we do some eco-fests, and we did Earth Day here in Toronto.
Over where? Nathan Phillips?
Nathan Phillips Square is an awesome young woman, Rachel Parent, put that together. I think she's 19 now.
Wow, good for her.
Yeah, and she's been an activist for like 6 or 7 years already. Anyway, she put together the Earth Day celebration here, and we Mother Earth Save did our first booth there. And Kitchener-Waterloo Climate Save does booths and things, and at different events, and so does Climate Vegan. So anyway, so we gave out some seeds and some chocolate. I think Sue must have eaten all the chocolate because it disappeared.
Yeah, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah. So anyway, so Mother.
Oh, I think I still have one in my pocket here. It's all warm
Probably
and
all
gooey
melted now.
Melted now. Yeah. So yeah, Mother Earth Save is our Facebook page, and
Can I? Yeah, look at
you
that.
can
Yeah,
look
let's
at
hold
it.
these
Yeah.
It's like a nice little.
I'll even let you keep one.
Women unite, take back the earth.
Yes, that's right.
Throw the horns when you say that. I'll say it in
She's
my...
a heavy metal head.
Oh, no. So is Colleen.
A little more. You have to do your Janis Joplin voice.
Yeah.
Right?
You got it? You got
You
one
can
of
do
those?
it.
I'm
yeah.
a little hoarse, so
She's
that's
a big
good.
Steel Panther fan.
Yeah. Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
So, and I just was going to show you some of our bags as
These
well.
are
So,
great. I
So
have
these
to
are
know
these are
about
for the Save movement. So this one is Save Our Mother, Go Vegan, and then it just has Climate Vegan on the back on this one.
That's
so,
great.
Yeah, and
Look at this one.
and this one is Be Peace, Be Vegan, Be a Feminist for All Females, and then it's just Save Movement on the back. So
That's including all species of females, is
that's
what
right.
we're getting at.
Yeah, because animal agriculture is really sexist, but that's that's another podcast. I think.
Very exploitive.
Yeah. Cool.
What's that other one you got?
This one is until we are all free, we are none of us free. This is a quote from Emma Lazarus.
Yeah.
And it's got save movement there, and then on this side it says animal agriculture, exploitation of female bodies. Go vegan. So.
Where could people get those?
Kitchener-Waterloo Animal Save or KW Animal Save or Kitchener-Waterloo Climate Save. I didn't name them. Okay, so they have different names.
So where do they get those? On Facebook or
yeah, they can
website?
just go. Yeah, just Facebook. Yeah.
So just okay.
Yeah, or they can go to the Save Movement page and see if they can find somebody who will give them to them. So.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
What are you gonna do with all those seeds?
I was going to give them to folks.
That would be. Can you give a?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
On camera, I would like to receive.
Yeah.
Okay, so it says Mother Earth Save on the back of it. So that's what you have to. So
I'm getting grabby. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So we have wildflowers, and then for people who don't have outside space, we have daisies, and a bouquet mixture. So I'll give you all three.
Oh, thank you.
How about you?
I'll be
Would you like some?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Daisies.
This is awesome.
So we did this for Earth Day. I can't talk anymore.
And by the way, I saw one of those women you mentioned. I forget which one, but I saw her on Earth Day over by can't remember which one.
Who married Chris
If you
Staples?
said it again, I would say yeah. But,
Rachel Parent?
no, before that. You mentioned.
Oh, Lita.
That doesn't matter. This is an
Kelly,
awkward part of
Kelly
the show.
Kerr was there, yeah.
No.
Kelly Kerr was there, but I didn't mention her name.
The woman who.
Laura Hamilton, Katerina Lindman.
That's it, Katerina. No.
Katerina Lindman.
No, we'll figure it out after.
All right.
But
Babe?
anyway,
Was
thank
it
you.
Babe?
Huh?
Was it Babe? Did you see Babe?
No. You do, and especially for people out in KW, they get in touch with you.
Awesome.
Or Kitchener-Waterloo.
Or Guelph, or Cambridge, the whole Tri-City area. And Toronto, too. Okay.
And Toronto.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Okay, we're
Thanks,
going to
Sue.
take a little break, and we got more. We got Lisa Lee coming up. Right? The Viet Vegan.
Hey.
Looking forward to that.
No, tuck in those.